So they wouldn't let us go down to my house because the Vice President's going down there. Did you see that convoy?
Yeah. Dick Cheney was down the street talking to people, so I was like, come on, Jay, let's go down there. And Jay was like, I think we're asking.
This is literally, what, 150 feet from your house?
Yeah, I was thinking of what I was going to say because, you know, everything that we had personally been through, and we'd been hearing reports of what was going on, you know, in New Orleans and everything, and just how completely incompetent the response was to this disaster.
No weapons here.
I remembered what he had said to Senator Leahy from Vermont on the floor of the Senate when he had told him to go fuck himself. So I thought it would be poetic justice if I quoted the Dick to the Dick.
Go fuck yourself, Mr. Cheney.
Figure out what to do with...
After I said it the first time, he kind of looked at me and everybody was like, what? And what was that? I can't believe I just heard that. And then so I was like, well, I better say it again just to make sure they heard it.
Go fuck yourself.
Are you getting a lot of that, Mr. Vice President? And it's the first time I've heard it.
The nation remembering one of the most powerful and polarizing vice presidents in American history. Former Vice President Dick Cheney has died. His career in politics spanning decades. A commanding presence in the White House after 9/11, advising President Bush and pushing for the U.S. war in Iraq. A lifelong conservative voice who became a vocal critic of President Trump in his late years. Here's our chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl, tonight.
Flags are at half-mast at the White House and Capitol tonight in honor of former Vice President Dick Cheney, one of the most consequential and polarizing political figures of our time.
They wouldn't call me Darth Vader for nothing.
Tonight he is remembered by the president he served, George W. Bush, for his role in guiding America in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks. President Bush writing, he held to his convictions and prioritized the freedom and security of the American people. Former Presidents Biden and Clinton paid tribute as well. Clinton writing, though we often disagreed, I always respected his dedication to our country and his unwavering sense of duty. Richard Bruce Cheney was born in Nebraska in 1941, where he was captain of his high school football team, and Lynn, his girlfriend and later wife of more than 6 decades, was the homecoming queen. They had 2 daughters, Mary and Liz. He became President Ford's chief of staff at just 34 years old, the youngest ever. He served 5 terms in Congress, and then as Secretary of Defense for President George H.W. Bush, successfully leading the Pentagon during the first Iraq War. A decade later, he agreed to help George W. Bush find a running mate. He would narrow his short list to one, Dick Cheney himself.
He is without a doubt fully capable of being the President of the United States.
He became the most influential vice president in American history. On 9/11, with President Bush traveling, it was Cheney, from a bunker below the White House, who ordered the military to shoot down any unresponsive aircraft. He was the architect of America's war on terror, making the case for the 2003 invasion of Iraq, arguing that Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction.
There is no doubt that he is amassing them to use against our friends, against our allies, and against us.
Cheney defended the war even after it was later revealed there were no weapons of mass destruction. And he defended the use of harsh tactics, including waterboarding, which many regarded as torture.
I was a big supporter of waterboarding. I was a big supporter of the enhanced interrogation techniques.
In 2021, Cheney sharply criticized President Trump's actions on and before January 6th.
There has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump.
And in 2024, the lifelong Republican endorsed Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris, saying Trump should never be trusted with power again.
How is Dick Cheney going to be remembered?
I saw a lot of history, was there when a lot of it was made. I'm very comfortable with what I did and why I did it and how I did it, and I'll let others judge whether they liked it or not.
Do you have any regrets?
Not really.
Classic Dick Cheney, few words and no apparent self-doubt. And as of this moment, David, still no statement whatsoever from President Trump about the passing of Dick Cheney.
And that was one of the last interviews. Still fascinating. No regrets, and he'll let history judge.
Yep.
John Karl tonight. Thank you.
All the white people in Australia who were really prisoners that have been, they were prisoners that were so bad they didn't even want them to stay in the country. So they shipped them all over to Australia. Australia is made up of white people who were what you call throwaway white people. I mean, they just couldn't do nothing with them. I mean, so they, hey, send them thousands of miles away. We don't even want them in prisons here. They're too awful, okay? So when they got to Australia, they just started slaughtering all the non-white people who were already in Australia, of which the numbers were huge. Now it's down to nothing almost, called Aborigines. And even in the islands around there, the New Hebrides and all like that, they just went in and started slaughtering people, right and left. All of the dark-skinned people. And then this took over. Now they got a history of being respectable and all the rest of it and whatnot. But the original people, so-called Aborigines in Australia, they got no say-so about nothing.
This next story takes us to Australia, to one of the Australian states, Victoria. That state has negotiated the country's first treaty with its indigenous peoples. Christina Kukala reports.
Celebration as the upper house of the Victorian Parliament passed the historic bill last Thursday. Reuben Berg is the co-chair of the First Peoples Assembly, which negotiated the treaty with the state government. He says it will give Aboriginal people more say on laws and policy.
In the past, there was a process where the government would make lots of decisions for Aboriginal people and occasionally involve within that decision-making process. This resets that so that Aboriginal people are always involved in decisions that are going to affect them.
The treaty creates a permanent Aboriginal body to advise the government, with elected members who can make representations and question ministers. It comes 2 years after an attempt to introduce a similar body in the national parliament overwhelmingly failed in a referendum, which the federal government says won't be repeated. Indigenous people make up around 4% of the Australian population. The Victorian Treaty names violence, destruction and dispossession as legacies of European colonisation for what are today Australia's most disadvantaged people. Premier Jacinta Allen told Parliament the treaty acknowledges the harms caused.
It reckons with the wrongs of the past and sets a new course, guided by truth to a better future.
One that's expected to act on the nearly 150 recommendations of a years-long special inquiry into the impacts of colonialism on Aboriginal Australians. Evidence from the truth-telling process will be used in history education in schools. The treaty also calls for a formal apology to First Nations in the state parliament and more use of traditional names, including for parks and waterways. Reuben Berg says past treaty negotiations with Indigenous communities in North America were front of mind throughout.
We've been very mindful of other treaties that have already happened and to draw from those experiences, particularly from British Columbia and the Native American groups, and to be able to learn from that about what's worked and what hasn't worked.
The Victorian Treaty will be formally signed in the coming weeks. For NPR News, I'm Christina Kukala in Melbourne.
You're dirt. We think you're dirt, Paul.
Who is we?
The West. All the superpowers, everything you believe in, Paul. They think you're dirt. They think you're dumb. You're worthless.
I'm afraid I don't understand what you are saying, sir.
Oh, come on, don't bullshit me, Paul. You're the smartest man here. You got them all eating out of your hands. You could own this freaking hotel, except for one thing. You're black. You're not even a nigger. You're an African.
We end today's show looking at Nigeria, as President Trump threatened this weekend to bomb Africa's most populous country, also the largest oil producer in Africa. In a post on Truth Social Saturday, Trump wrote in part, quote, "The USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country guns a-blazing. If we attack, it'll be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians," he wrote. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth responded to the post writing, quote, "Yes, sir," unquote. Trump on Sunday again vowed in his plane to take action in Nigeria.
They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. Not
Nigerian officials and experts in the West African region have refuted Trump's claims of mass killings of Christians. This is a researcher at Good Governance Africa.
This is not a Christian genocide because the facts don't support it. If you look at the areas where this conflict is rife, even if you take Borno State alone, you look at the northern Borno, many of these communities are Muslim dominated. So most of the victims of Boko Haram violence are Muslims.
Nigeria's government has said it welcomes military aid from the U.S. as long as its sovereignty is respected. This is an advisor to the Nigerian President Bola Tinubu.
Our soldiers have the capability to deal with this thing, so we do not require the American soldiers boots on the ground. What we need is the apparatus, the equipment, the access to some of these things that will aid our own military force and some of the paramilitary and intelligence operatives to deal with this.
For more, we're joined by two guests. In Lagos, Nigeria, we'll speak with Wole Soyinka, the acclaimed Nigerian playwright, author, and poet, the first African to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. It happened in 1986. The Trump administration recently revoked his visa to come to the United States. The decision came after Soyinka referred to President Trump as the white version of the ruthless Ugandan military dictator Idi Amin. And we're joined by Anthea Butler, professor of religious studies at the University of Pennsylvania. Her most recent book is titled White Evangelical Racism, The Politics of Morality in America. Professor Butler, we're going to begin with you. Can you explain, were you surprised by President Trump going after Nigeria this weekend, saying they could bomb, they could strike, they could move in with guns blazing, saying Christians are being killed there? Can you explain where this is coming from?
I'm never surprised at the hyperbole of our president. Let me just say this. I think that this has been a longstanding concern of evangelical Christians in the United States. And so if you think about this in terms of the president's base, this is a move, I think, in part to energize them, to have them think that he is thinking about Christians in other places. So this theme of persecution of Christians is a very politically charged and actually religiously charged theme for evangelicals across the world. And when you say that Christians are being persecuted, that's a thing. So for him to say this on Truth Social, I think provides two things. One is this is something that the administration is thinking about insofar as somebody probably told them to think about it. That's number one. And number two, it serves another purpose. It serves to energize his base. And so while this issue of religious violence has been prevalent in Nigeria for lots of different reasons, I would submit to you that it's not simply just about violence against Christians, but it's religiously inflected violence because of different factions that are on the ground and groups. And this is not just about Christians, but it's also involving Muslims. It's involving other groups that are there. It's a complicated situation.
In fact, with Boko Haram, you have them most attacking in the north, and in the north, it's more Muslims that are being killed than Christians. It's not that there isn't violence, but the Nigerians are questioning whether this is religiously based. So the question is this coming from the United States? Trump said he asked Congressmember Riley Moore of West Virginia and Congressmember Tom Cole of Oklahoma and House Appropriations Committee for a report on the matter. Congressman Moore had sent a letter to Secretary of State Rubio urging the Trump administration to take immediate action to address systematic persecution and slaughter of Christians in Nigeria, saying that Nigeria is the deadliest place in the world to be a Christian. So talk more about the white Christian nationalists in the United States going after Africa's most populous country and maybe of relevance, the largest oil producer, as Venezuela is in Latin America, which President Trump is threatening to attack, but the largest oil producer in Africa.
Yeah, I find that very interesting that these are two oil-rich states that he is interfering in. So that's number one. Number two, let me say this about Nigeria and Christianity. There has been a religiously sort of back and forth between Nigeria and America for a very long time. If you think about that towards televangelists, and that sort of exploded in the 1990s and the 2000s, you have many giant mega churches. So it's no surprise that, politicos here, especially those who are Republican and Christian, would be interested in Nigeria for not just, financial gain, but also because this is a country that in the South is predominantly Christian. Okay, so that's number one. And number two, I think, which is actually even more important, is that this is a place where the administration could prosecute a holy war. And what I mean by that is that they can use certain kinds of things that have happened in the news. If you think back 2 years ago, there was a massacre of Christians during the Christmas season. There have been, Boko Haram capturing girls. These were mostly Muslim girls, actually. If we think about all of these cases, this falls into that kind of framework that evangelicals understand, first of all, and then secondarily, it fits this sort of savior narrative of this American sort of ethos right now that is seeing itself going into countries for a moral war, a moral suasion, as it were, to do something to help other people. Now, I think it's very interesting to also think about the fact that the president of Nigeria is a Muslim. He is married to a Christian wife. Nigeria is complicated religiously. And I don't think that the ways in which that this is being portrayed in, the popular ways in which we report on what he says, right, the president says, is a way that you should understand Nigeria. It is much more complicated religiously. There's religious violence. There have been people in this country for years who have been working on this through various administrations. And it certainly was going on during the first round of the Trump administration, but he didn't seem to care about it then. Why now?
And finally, before we go to Wole Soyinka, the Trump administration sharply reducing the number of refugees admitted annually to the U.S. to 7,500 people from like 125,000. Most of those 7,500 will be white South Africans who are mostly Christian.
Yes. I mean, I think this is sort of disingenuous to say you're going to go in and save Christianity in Nigeria when you have, banned Nigerians from coming to this country. It's very crucial in a way, because I think about this in terms of places like Houston, Texas, where Nigerians make up a huge part of the population there, and they are very active in engineering, finance, and medical issues, medical doctors, things like that. You are banning a community that is very, how shall I say, that when they come to the United States for education or to work, very professionalized. This is not, people who are coming because they want to seek asylum. They are coming to contribute and they want to be able to come in. But the fact that this administration is on the one hand saying, we want to go in and save Nigeria, but on the other hand, not letting Nigerians into the country, and you're only going to let South Africans in, and white South Africans to boot, that is pretty much telling you exactly where this Christian nationalist administration is.
Shortage of white people lately. I ain't seen no white folks no more. Y'all stop fucking? White folks into yoga. You can't get no nut doing no yoga. You got to get the pussy. They stopped fucking because some rich white man told them. Said, "But come on, cut the crap. Jesus Christ, there's too many people on earth. I have no place to ride my horsey."
The caregiving industry is already struggling with a workforce shortage. Add to that the fact that Americans are living longer and having fewer children. It's a population shift that means more people are growing into old age than people coming up behind them. In this report, NPR's Kristen Wright puts those two together, the decline in the birth rate and how that may reshape how we think about caring for the oldest Americans.
A retired school teacher sits in her black and white striped blazer and pearls, ready for a party in her honor. She smiles when you catch her eye.
My name is Evelyn G. White.
White is celebrating another birthday. She's 104 and grateful for her life and all the care and love she gets from her son Maurice White and his wife Renee Devine. We ask if he's her only son.
As far as I know.
The couple has been caring for White at home for 25 years. They think she's one of the last of many they've cared for.
There's been 12. You
Yeah,
know,
my dad.
his father, my mother, other aunts, uncles, grandparents.
They took care of White on their own until just a couple of years ago when she started needing more support. The family began hiring home health aides and found Celisa Sutton.
I'm like family. I call her my auntie.
Sutton says White was usually very active, going out for mile-long walks.
She was bathing herself, brush her teeth, getting herself dressed. She would ride her bike. We go to the senior citizen center every day.
But one day this summer, things changed. White had a stroke. She couldn't move her left side. She was in the hospital for 9 days and then had to go to rehab at Knollwood Senior Living Community in Washington, D.C. before she could go back home. Sutton still sings gospel music to her every day.
This is the day that the Lord has made, that the Lord has made.
White is surrounded by Sutton and her family. She sits at a table in the dining room at Knollwood for the celebration. The room is decorated with balloons, the table set with white and royal blue linens and pink flowers. Sunlight streams through the windows. 6 women are being honored. They've made it to 100. White's family says she's passed down to them her philosophy on life.
Being nice to everybody. Being appreciative of things that are done for you.
Being nice and appreciative. Her son says that's the way he was raised. So he and his wife insisted that Mom, who was a widow, move in with them all those years ago. It took a while to convince her, but she quickly adjusted.
She said to me, "This is the best thing I've ever done in my whole life. I don't have to worry about the roof, the heating, nothing." We were so relieved because I was really worried that we hadn't pushed her into something she didn't want.
They know many families can't keep loved ones home. The couple never had children of their own. They shuffled back and forth from house to house most days, tending to their elders while working, and built an apartment in their basement for White. Maurice White says, as a black family, culture plays a role.
I do think that African American families have more of a tendency to do that. Many because of money, but more just because of the family connection. It's just, this is my mom. We put her to bed every night and say prayers with her.
According to a recent Pew Research Center survey, about a quarter of black, Asian, and Hispanic Americans, the term used by Pew, live in multi-generational households like theirs. Like so many, Maurice White and Renee Devine wish they had a senior care blueprint. They're still learning how to care for White as she gets older.
And it's a gradual process. I mean, every week or every month something changes. Mom had been fixing her own food, and then it got to the point where it started to be an issue.
And now things are changing again since the stroke. Walking is harder than it used to be, and White will have to sleep in a hospital bed when she gets home from rehab. This is the couple's advice for people who want to care for their loved ones at home.
Research, research, research.
White has long-term care insurance, but her family still had to shift some things around, like selling property to cover some of her care.
You try to do your due diligence to gather your facts and learn and ask questions.
And finding people like Sutton who love caring for others.
How you feel, Miss White?
Good. Feeling good.
Even with an experienced, dedicated caregiver who comes into their home, there are many hard days. The couple has taken workshops to help manage the stress and emotions. Devine shares this release technique.
If you are driving in your car, you blast your radio or your music. You're screaming at the top of your lungs. You just scream.
Millions of families across the country are feeling the frustration too. The cost of care keeps rising, and cuts to Medicaid and years-long state waiting lists for home and community-based care leave many with few options. And at this rate, population shifts will mean more older people and fewer caregivers.
My concern is the nursing shortage.
Beverly Morgan is the head of marketing at Knollwood, where White went for stroke rehab. Morgan's been a registered nurse for 30 years.
There's a physician shortage. There's a physical therapy. Healthcare professionals are dwindling.
It got worse at the height of the pandemic, and the Trump administration's immigration policies are expected to put more strain on the care workforce. Immigrants make up almost a third of professional, direct, long-term care workers. Beverly Morgan wonders how older people will get the care they need in the future.
I'm not so sure as a country how we're going to be able to meet those needs when the population of people are growing, but the professionals that are going to be able to serve them are not.
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
At the party, the honorees get bouquets of pink roses, including Evelyn White.
Thank you so much.
She says the celebration was moving.
It was wonderful. I thought it was so nice. I'm blessed.
Blessed, she says. Devine says the family's prayers have been answered. After weeks of rehab, White's going home.
We're proud of you, Mom, because you've worked very hard here. It's hard to do rehab in the best of times. But at 104, you're an inspiration to us all.
Thank you. Isn't that nice?
Generations to come will make hard decisions about how to care for their elders. Some days, White's son, who's 75, and daughter-in-law, who's 68, both retired, talk about who will take care of them and where.
I've always said I'd stay in my house until the day I died.
The couple agrees they have more talking to do, but they do know they'll always need human connection.
Then it dawned on me, but then you could kind of be isolated all the time, and I think that's one of the things that's helped Mom. She's never been isolated, and it made a difference. It kept her alive.
Maurice White and Renee Devine's hope is that the country can solve the caregiving crisis and be ready for shifts in the population so that families can afford care, professional workers are valued with better wages, and aging family members get the care they deserve. With NPR senior producer Marisa Peñalosa, I'm Kristen Wright, NPR News, Washington.
The Delectable Negro, Human Consumption and Homoeroticism Within U.S. Slave Culture, by Vincent Woodard.
Let's look deeper now into the latest on food assistance and the impact of the shutdown on families who rely on that aid. For that, I'm joined by Eric Mitchell. He's president of the Alliance to End Hunger. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Can we just start with this legal back and forth and all the confusion? Is it even clear to you when those funds will be dispersed?
The short answer is no. I mean, they're still building this plane as they take off. We just heard that there has been guidance issued to the states by the USDA. I'm unclear on what the specifics of those guidance are. I know there are states who are trying to figure it out as we speak. All we know is that right now you have 42 million people hanging in a balance trying to figure out how they're going to put food on the table.
So there's a legal political fight and families caught in the crossfire. You heard some of them there in the report from Lisa. Tell me about what you're hearing from people about what kind of decisions they're making right now, how they're getting by.
When we talk to our partners who are working with folks on the ground, you're hearing stories that are similar to what you just saw on the screen. You know, moms trying to figure out what type of food they're going to be able to afford for their kids. Some having to sacrifice, eating so that way they have enough to eat. Also, keep in mind that this is like a thread, attached to a sweater. When a person can't afford to buy food, or when those benefits are going away, they have to replace that with something else. So they may have to make choices that are hard to figure out. For example, how are they going to pay rent? How are they going to cover their medical bills? These are all the things that they are now having to figure out how to piece together now that they don't have the benefits to be able to purchase food.
Food banks, food pantries have always been the place people rely on to help fill the void. The need has gone up. How are they managing this moment?
Food banks were already stretched thin just based on the economy and food prices going up and what have you. And this just compounds that. I mean, you're going to have now, there are longer lines that you're seeing across certain communities. When you go to communities, for example, right outside of the D.C. area, because of the furlough, you're having more families who are having to rely on food banks and food pantries. And then you put on top of that the fact that you have families who are not receiving the SNAP benefits that they once were receiving. That just makes it even further. So the food banks are stretched out, just like everyone else in the communities.
Can I ask you what the Department of Justice is saying? Because they've argued, their lawyers argued even today, quote, there's no lawful basis for an order that directs USDA to somehow find $4 billion in the metaphorical couch cushions. How do you respond to that? Do you think the administration has some obligation here?
The administration definitely has obligation. In fact, that is contrary to what they were saying in the beginning of October and when the shutdown was starting. They actually said that it's Congress's intent for USDA to provide the benefits and provide funding for SNAP benefits through when there's a lapse in coverage as a result of the shutdown. That's what they said October 1st. They changed their mind a few weeks later and said that they were not going to be providing benefits in November, and now they're kind of walking back from there. So yes, they have legal authority. Plus, with the court decisions yesterday, I would say the legal authority is very clear that it's the intent for them to not only fund SNAP, but to fully fund SNAP so that people are able to receive their benefits.
So how do you look at why this is happening? You heard in the report Judge Collins saying there's a political reason. President Trump has posted the shutdown will end, or the SNAP benefits will be paid when the shutdown ends. Do you think this is a political decision or a financial one?
I never try to get into the mind or try to speculate what people's intentions are. I will say that, yes, the shutdown is a part of the reason why we are in this situation. The shutdown definitely needs to end, but there is a contingency fund to be able to provide resources for SNAP benefits while they're negotiating the shutdown. So in the long term, yes, the shutdown needs to end so that we don't have to revisit this conversation again in December. But, I'm not going to say what the administration's views are. This is D.C., so all things can be political.
Well, let me ask you about what we've seen, this patchwork of efforts, states stepping in to fill the void, public and private efforts to do so. How long can that last?
Look, all this is really a temporary Band-Aid for a larger problem. States, private sector, they all are stepping up to the plate. I applaud the work that they're doing to step up to the plate. But the reality is that the federal government really has to be able to provide those resources. For every one meal that's given at a food bank, 9 meals is given based on federal government resources. And so you cannot replace what the role and responsibility that the government has. Even with state and local governments, their budgets can only go but so far. And this is another unnecessary burden that the states are now having to figure out how to make work.
All right. Eric Mitchell, President of the Alliance to End Hunger. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I sure am hungry.
SNAP benefits have now been officially halted due to the ongoing government shutdown. And some of the 42 million people who rely on the program to buy food are already feeling the consequences. 2 separate court rulings on Friday ordered the Trump administration to resume payments for food stamps out of an emergency fund. And the judge gave the government until Monday to present a plan. But when benefits will return and how much money will reach people in need remains unclear. In the meantime, food banks around the country are stepping up to help. Elizabeth Keever is the Chief Resource Officer at Harvesters, a food bank in Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Aisha.
So your organization works with a nonprofit network in 2 states, Kansas and Missouri, to get food to people in need. You've been out this weekend at one of the distribution sites. What have you been seeing and hearing since these benefits ran out?
Well, most certainly the overwhelming response has been just fear and uncertainty. I was at the Sheffield Family Life Center mobile distribution and the Sacred Heart Guadalupe Church mobile distribution, and one of the things that was immediately apparent was that there is a significant increase in need, and a lot of times for folks who are utilizing mobile distributions in our pantries for the very first time. At one of the sites, the cars started lining up as early as 4 a.m. By the time 10:30 rolled around at Sheffield Family Life Center, we had to start turning cars away. And as I was leaving, we turned down 10 cars. So when the last trunks got full and the pallets ran out of food, it was really hard to see.
Do food banks have the ability to fill the gap when SNAP benefits are not in play?
Well, that's the really big problem is we're in uncharted territory. We have always been the supplement to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And when you think about the county I was in alone, I was in Jackson County, there are 92,000 folks in that county who are on SNAP benefits. And the monthly distribution that is anticipated for that county alone is $19 million. That's more than our organization receives in charitable contributions for an entire year. So it's nearly impossible to make up the gap that SNAP is leaving us, but we're doing everything we can to make sure that we are easing this burden for folks. And it's just this really scary moment where there's a lot of uncertainty. So the gap is massive. And at the end of the day, food banks can't necessarily fill it.
After the courts weighed in, President Trump announced that he's directed government lawyers to find a way to pay SNAP benefits. But administration officials have previously said that there's not enough in the emergency fund to cover the whole month and that it could take weeks to arrange partial payments. What does this mean for people who need money to buy food right now?
This is a really big challenge with the judge's ruling. We don't know what's going to happen. The administration has until Monday to respond, and it takes every state a little bit different timeline to process those EBT benefits onto someone's card. You know, on the state of Kansas, we're expecting it to be 72 hours after the state gets it. Not to mention, there is a lack of knowledge on how even a partial distribution will even work to the states. One of the things that we were really concerned about was people are going to read the headlines in the news saying the judge orders SNAP benefits to be paid with the emergency funds and think that everything's okay. They're going to get their SNAP benefits. And at the end of the day, that's not the reality. We've got, over 150,000 people in the Kansas City metro region who utilize SNAP benefits. And that's on top of the 30,000 federal civilian workers that we have here as well.
You talked about how much uncertainty there is around when benefits could actually resume. And right now, there's no end in sight to the government shutdown. How could a long delay affect the work you do in the days and weeks ahead?
Well, the big challenge is we have to do everything we can to bring in as much inventory to offset this increase in demand. On top of which, we're headed into the holiday season where we know our partner agencies already see an influx. It's absolutely unsustainable for a prolonged shutdown. Without SNAP benefits, there is no way organizations like Harvesters and frankly any food bank across the country can offset what is lost in SNAP benefits. For every one meal an organization like Harvesters provides, SNAP provides 9. And we don't have the ability to overnight make up that loss.
That's Elizabeth Keever, Chief Resource Officer at Harvesters, a food bank in Kansas City. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can testify, but you just can't win, because I'm here to tell you guilty as sin. Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. Order the courts.
Late today, the Supreme Court granted the Trump administration's emergency appeal to temporarily block a lower appellate court order that would have forced the federal government to pay full SNAP benefits right away. Now, that move buys the White House some time, but for millions of Americans, the question now is when or if those full benefits will come through.
Tonight, as the government shutdown approaches day 39, millions who rely on food assistance still don't know if they'll get their full benefits this month. Late Friday, the Supreme Court temporarily froze a lower court order that would have forced the Trump administration to immediately pay out full SNAP benefits for November, even as some states, including California, had already started sending them. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson issued the stay, giving a federal appeals court more time to decide whether the administration can delay those payments while the legal battle continues. The administration argues it's run out of money, saying a $5 billion reserve is already empty. Before the Supreme Court decision, Governor Gavin Newsom praised the lower court ruling, saying full SNAP benefits were starting to reach about 5.5 million CalFresh recipients in the state. Local food banks say they're seeing more need than ever.
We know that between last Thursday and last Sunday, our 211 system saw an increase in call volume of almost 500%, with the assistance for food being overtaking housing and being the #1 reason people were calling.
The legal showdown escalated last week when a federal judge ordered the government to tap contingency funds to keep food aid flowing. That order followed lawsuits from several states, including California, warning millions could go hungry. But when the administration moved forward with only partial payments...
It's an absurd ruling because you have a federal judge effectively telling us what we have to do in the midst of a Democrat government shutdown.
The judge fired back, accusing the administration of holding up benefits for political reasons. The government is now complying, at least in part, while its appeal plays out in the high court.
This is about feeding people. These are seniors and kids and the disabled and the like. They're weaponizing hunger to try and use it as leverage for their legislative agenda.
Diane Weisberg receives about $70 a week in SNAP benefits. For her, the stalemate is personal.
Thanksgiving dinner is canceled. That, to me, is an extreme just horror to me that as an American citizen at my age, I can't have Thanksgiving dinner with my family because I can't afford the groceries.
Again, the Supreme Court's action today is only temporary while the First Circuit Court of Appeals decides whether the Trump administration should get more time to delay those full SNAP benefits. A decision could come at any time. But in the meantime, millions of Americans who rely on federal food aid will have to wait and worry a little longer. In the News Center, I'm John Fenolio, sending it back to you.
Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head.
Almost 42 million people are losing a big part of their food budget this month as the federal government delays their monthly SNAP payments. Now, some nonprofits and small businesses are trying to bridge that gap. In Brooklyn, one tech startup already works closely with people on food stamps, and it's using that relationship to raise a little money for them. NPR business correspondent Maria Aspen reports.
When Jimmy Chen was growing up in Kansas City, his parents sometimes struggled to put food on the table. Today, he's got a pretty good view of what other families are going through.
People who use the SNAP program in the United States, their budgets are already extremely tight. There's usually not a lot of wiggle room. And so a delay of even a few days on an expected deposit ends up being a really, really huge deal.
Chen is the founder and CEO of a small tech company called Propel. It makes a free app for people on the federal government's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. About 5 million people use Propel's app to check their SNAP balances and get coupons or other discounts on groceries. That means that Chen sees exactly how much money they usually get from SNAP, and he got an early window into how much this month's delayed payments are going to hurt their families.
Almost half of our users tell us that they would either use a food bank or skip meals in the event of a delay in the November SNAP schedule. And I think that just underscores how close to the financial edge a lot of families are.
Shanita Melton is one of those users. She lives in rural North Carolina, about 45 minutes away from Charlotte. And she relies on her monthly SNAP payment to help feed her 4 kids. But now she's starting to scramble.
I went to a food bank 2 days ago at a church. Because by me having older kids, they eat a lot.
She has 3 teenagers who do eat a lot. But the stuff at the food bank isn't always great.
You know, they give you food that's out of date. And I'd be kind of scared giving my kids expired food. But, I mean, sometimes you have to do what you have to do.
Chen says Propel has identified about 230,000 users like Melton. People with very little or no income and kids to feed. They're going to be the hardest hit this month. So on Saturday, Propel started giving $50 each to its users with high need.
We understand that $50 is not enough. It's not enough to help a family afford food for a whole month or anything even close.
But he says Propel is trying to reach the largest number of people possible. It's donated a total of $1 million, and some of its business partners, including nonprofits and other companies, have also chipped in. Propel has also launched a crowdfunding campaign with the nonprofit Give Directly, which runs similar programs all over the world. Together, they've raised more than $9 million so far.
The best substitute, the best emergency help during this time is just cash. It's just a way to give people more flexibility to decide what they want to pay for.
But Chen knows that what he's doing is still just a drop in the bucket.
At the end of the day, the single biggest thing that we can do in this country is to get SNAP back online, depositing on a predictable schedule to the people who receive it.
In the meantime, he's hoping that $50 here or there can make a little bit of a difference. Maria Aspen, NPR News, New York.
Flying high. Ooh. Flying high in the pretty sky. Flying high.
The federal government shutdown in the United States, which started more than 5 weeks ago, is now the longest on record. The failure of Republicans and Democrats in Congress to agree a new funding deal means that flights will have to be cancelled from Friday. The Federal Aviation Administration has said it will cut air traffic by 10% across 40 busy airports in order to maintain safety. Air traffic controllers have been working without pay for more than a month, and some are now calling in sick. The Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, has said they're looking for work elsewhere.
What we're finding is that our air traffic controllers, because of the financial pressures at home, are taking side jobs. They need to put food on the table, gas in the car, pay their bills. And so because of that, we have seen staffing pressures throughout our airspace. Those who travel will see that we've had more delays. We've had more cancellations. We do not want to see disruptions, but our number one priority is to make sure when you travel safely.
I heard more from our North America correspondent, Peter Bowes.
This is going to have a huge impact, given that the U.S. system handles roughly 44,000 flights every day. That's passenger flights, cargo planes and private aircraft. So a 10% cut, about 4,000 fewer flights. So this is a proactive move to relieve the pressure on the air traffic controllers. So specific airports will be affected. We don't know at this stage which ones. And in fact, since the original announcement, the Reuters news agency has reported, quoting its sources, that these cuts will be rolled out from Friday, perhaps starting at about 3 or 4% and getting up to 10% by the beginning of next week. So I think what this tells us is that this is a moving situation. The airlines have only really just discovered that this is going to happen, and clearly will be working very hard to try to organise this and work out the implications for its passengers.
I mean, this just sounds unbelievable to me, that you can have people doing such an important job like air traffic control and they're not being paid. I mean, is this affecting the safety of air travel?
That is a key question. There is no indication right now that air travel in this country is not safe. That's what they're trying to avoid. In fact, the FAA has said that the system is still operating safely, but they are warning about these staffing problems and the fatigue pressures, especially amongst its staff, saying that as time goes on, this is now a record-breaking shutdown in terms of the number of days, and the problems are only going to get worse as every day goes on. The other concern is that because of staff shortages, there could be delays in maintenance work on critical equipment. And again, were that to be causing a significant concern that equipment simply wasn't working properly, that could cause further flights to be delayed or indeed cancelled.
Peter Bowes.
Why haven't you learned anything?
Right, it shows officers arrest the sub here in the parking lot for operating while intoxicated, and a breathalyzer shows that he blew over 4 times the legal limit after working with students inside for hours. It's lunchtime, October 30th, at Bay Lane Elementary in Muskego. But just outside the front doors,
let's take this off as easy as possible, Chris.
A substitute gym teacher in cuffs.
What did I do? You have a warrant. Showed up to work drunk.
30-year-old Christopher Rios, now charged with his 4th OWI, accused of showing up to school that morning drunk. Investigators say that's Rios in the parking lot at 8:20, stumbling out of his car and grabbing his bag before walking inside. Video obtained by 12 News shows Rios working with students in the gym. Investigators say throughout the morning, Rios fails to walk in a straight line and sways with each step. Just after 11,
just doing my job and doing what I gotta do.
Rios gets sent to the principal's office, where he tells the school resource officer,
"How long have you been working in the school in here?"
Here, this is my first day.
Muskego police say Rios was a guest teacher provided by the district's staffing partner, Kelly Education. Kelly Education, in a statement to 12 News Tuesday, says Rios, quote, has been removed from all assignments pending the outcome of the investigation. Back in the principal's office, Rios blows more than 4 times the legal limit.
Do you know the legal limit?
What's your rate?
Okay, you're .36.
I think I'm all right. I think it's cool.
Muskego police called to the scene learned Rios has a warrant out for his arrest for failing to appear in court for a previous OWI in Cudahy.
The school has said he's obviously no longer welcome today.
And officers take him into custody.
4 times the legal limit. That video is stunning, Emily. So you said he's been charged with his 4th offense OWI. How did he even get past school administrators in the first place?
Right. Well, I asked the staffing firm that he worked for, Kelly Education. They say that they do background and fingerprint checks, and they also say they adhere to the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction's testing standards. I also reached out to the district superintendent here for comment, but I did not hear back. Rios tonight sits in the Waukesha County Jail.
I don't want us to lose sight that things are getting better. Each successive generation seems to be making progress in changing attitudes when it comes to race. Doesn't mean we're in a post-racial society. It doesn't mean that racism is eliminated. But you know, when I talk to Malia and Sasha, and I listen to their friends and I see them interact, they're better than we are. They're better than we were on these issues. And that's true in every community that I've visited all across the country.
Damn you, Obama.
Let's go, Deuce. Let's go, Deuce. A touchdown that made his dad cheer. A moment that felt like a beginning. Money! He's 18 now, but Brooke Williams has worked for a shot at college ball since he was 5. The Plainfield native chose Aurora University, 30 minutes from home, for the field and the feel.
I went on a visit, I think in like December, and I just really like the culture, and I just like the facilities and the campus, really.
Weeks into his first semester, he says that feeling changed and the locker room turned hostile.
At first, they made some N-word comments, and I was just like shocked and like appalled by it. And then after that, shortly, he said, another guy said, why are you sleeping here? Don't you guys sleep in trees?
And he was the only black player in that room. He says a George Floyd reference followed, and all he could see was the scene the world can't unsee. Floyd dying under an officer's knee, and fear set in.
You're 6'3" saying this to a 5'7", that's intimidating.
As a mother, I was devastated, to say the least. Our whole family has been affected by this.
Brooke's mom, Aisha, says reporting it felt like a second fight. She pushed for a formal investigation.
I didn't give up. I was relentless. Emailed the president, the vice president, everybody. Every single day. They would give me no answers. Next day, I'm emailing again, calling to the school, emailing, even the coach. I emailed him as well. And so finally, the vice president scheduled a meeting with us, and we went in and sat down with her and the coach, my husband and my son.
The school's investigation found 2 players created a hostile environment based on race. Brooke says they kept playing while that investigation was going on. Their initial punishment, suspended from the team and put on disciplinary probation. But after lawyers got involved in an appeal, that changed. They take racial sensitivity training and be back on the field next January. Aisha says a meeting with the coach made it worse. That coach, former NFL player Don Beebe, a Super Bowl winner with the Packers, told them he knew the families of the players accused.
The words that he spoke in front of us and the vice president, I used to be in the NFL. I had black friends. Me and my black friends told racist jokes. He said, I want to forgive the kids like Jesus forgave David for being a murderer.
Brooke never got an apology, not from the players, not from the coach. She says the coach stopped speaking to him in film sessions, even skipped his plays on screen. That, he says, was the moment he knew he couldn't stay.
When we went to get my shoulder pads and my girdle and everything in there, a bunch of stuff was missing. My pads was missing. The only thing that was really left was my cleats and my girdle. A bunch of my gloves, my mouthpieces, my towels, they're all gone.
2 weeks later, a friend texted him these photos. Everything was back in his locker. By then, Brooke had already decided to leave, losing his $60,000 scholarship and his peace of mind.
Honestly, it was hurtful because I've been working so hard. I saved a bunch of money to go to school, and now I'm stuck working again. I can't go back to school until January, and I don't know where I want to go.
The university sent us a statement. It says it takes reports seriously, and federal law limits what it can share. It says every report is reviewed and action follows if there's a violation. The Williams family read it themselves.
The report is carefully reviewed, lies, appropriate, another policy. Yeah. He doesn't feel valued or supported.
Brooklyn says the process left him with one question.
Really, it's just like, am I enough? Like, what did I do to deserve this?
It's a question past students of color have had. A 1987 Chicago Tribune article describes similar racial tensions at Aurora University, from KKK graffiti to fear in dorms. 4 decades later and across the country, race-based harassment reports on campuses remain among the top categories of civil rights complaints. The FBI tracked more than 11,000 hate crimes in 2024, most tied to race. The Williams family says it's shocking, but they're not shocked.
Several of his teammates have vocalized that they're scared to say anything. Caucasian students, by the way. And that's why they didn't speak up for him when he was being antagonized and harassed that night. So I'm not surprised. What we allow will continue, so.
For other families, this is about more than one team or one university. Experts say ask colleges how they handle discrimination, what training teams receive, and how the school ensures safety after a report. All things Brooke's dad, Jerry, wondered. He stayed quiet, a silent support close by, until he couldn't anymore.
If you could speak directly to Aurora's president and board, what would you say?
Listen to this young black man. I'm not here to tell you how far to go as far as pushing or disciplining these kids, but it has to be more than just a suspension to the end of this football season or January. Now, you got these kids that went through this situation. They appealed it.
I wish I was in Dixie. Away, away, way down south in Dixie. Bring the niggas with the banjos. Send in the clowns.
I wish I was in the land of cotton.
Well, Jennifer, witnesses say class had started when that fight disrupted things. They say several students attacked one student over what some are calling a controversial item. Hot tempers and punches thrown inside a 9th grade classroom at Kenwood High School in Essex. The violent confrontation, caught on cell phone video last Friday, shared by students and eventually posted to Facebook. A brutal fight triggered, students say, by something a student was wearing.
The people were just randomly seeing the guy and hearing about him wearing the shirt like that, and then when they just saw him, they decided to be rash about it.
The shirt he was wearing had a Confederate flag. Another picture shows the teen sitting in the classroom. Alex says he was in an adjacent classroom when the commotion broke out and spilled into the hallway.
But I definitely saw a bunch of people just screaming at him, like from really up close.
School officials confirmed there was a fight of some sort, but released no other details. Meantime, parents and other students are talking about the fight and the shirt.
I understand that it's a controversial item. As a historian, I'd like to keep it in our history, of course, naturally.
Like, I mean, he was minding his business, honestly.
They ain't have no right touching them.
You know, it was just inappropriate for him to have it, for him to be wearing it in school.
Why would his parents let him wear it? From the jump, knowing it was going to lead to something crazy, knowing what's going on now in this world.
Well, according to the Baltimore County Schools dress code policy, students cannot wear attire that's, quote, disruptive to the school environment, which includes messages, they say, that are plainly offensive. The policy does not mention any particular message. We're live now in Essex. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
As your body grows bigger, your mind must flower. It's great to learn, 'cause knowledge is power. It's Schoolhouse Rocket, a chip on the block of your favorite schoolhouse.
Baltimore County Public Schools agrees to retrain staff after AI surveillance mistakes. Students chip bag for weapon. By Andrea Stevens, Afro staff writer, at stevens@afro.com. Baltimore County Public Schools says it will retrain staff following the October 20th incident involving an artificial intelligence surveillance system that misidentified a Doritos bag as a gun. Though the alert was ultimately called off, the school's principal alerted a resource officer who called the Baltimore County Police Department, leading a student to be handcuffed at gunpoint. BCPS released a joint statement along with Baltimore County Police Department and Baltimore County Councilman Julian Jones, D District 4, on October 28th. To protect our community, the school system employs a layered approach to security that includes clear student expectations, student safety assistants, safety managers, school resource officers, SRO, cameras, security vestibules, open gate, and OmniAlert weapons detection systems and comprehensive training, read the statement. Baltimore County Public Schools and the Baltimore County Police Department have reviewed the school response and the police response to the incident at Kenwood High School on Monday, October 20th, 2025, and are committed to taking additional steps to ensure all staff fully understand and follow established protocols to prevent such incidents from occurring again. BCPS will continue to provide ongoing counseling and emotional support to students impacted by this event. In the statement, Councilman Jones Jr. praised both BCPS and BCPD. I commend the Baltimore County Police Department and the public school system for their responsiveness after my request for a thorough review of the technology and processes behind the AI-guided camera warning system involved at Kenwood High School, Jones said. Both agencies confirmed that they conduct incident reviews as part of their regular practice, examined with me all aspects of this troubling incident, and shared examples where the OmniAlert system captured valuable information that helped prevent bad outcomes. We agree on the need for annual retraining to ensure that dedicated staff follow appropriate existing protocols, and we will all remain vigilant about how our technology is functioning. OmniAlert, introduced in 2023 and installed district-wide in 2024, is a weapons detection system that uses more than 7,000 cameras to identify potential threats. When the system detects an object resembling a firearm, it generates an alert reviewed by trained BCPS safety staff. If confirmed, police are notified for response. If dismissed, no further action is supposed to be taken. Notifications are shared with administrators for awareness only.
Yeah. You're still saying there's no profiling, but it is. It is. We're being hunted every day. It's a silent war against African American people as a whole.
The hunt is on. And you're the prey.
A former sheriff's deputy charged with first-degree murder for shooting a woman who had called 911 was convicted on a lesser charge yesterday. Sean Gratian. He claimed he was defending himself from victim Sonia Massey. National correspondent Jerika Duncan is at the courthouse in Peoria, Illinois. Jerika, good morning.
Good morning to you, Nate. You know, a jury of 8 women and 4 men deliberated for roughly 12 hours, and I was inside that courtroom when the verdict was read. The Massey family was silent. They said this was not justice, but a miscarriage of justice.
He was in 6 police departments in 3.5 years. That is shameful.
Sonia Massey's father, James Wilburn, was emotional and frustrated after Wednesday's verdict. Sean Grayson was facing 3 counts of first-degree murder, but a jury found him guilty on 1 lesser count of second-degree murder, sparing Grayson a possible life sentence.
He told my child he would shoot her in the effing face, and he did it. And all we got was a second-degree murder conviction out of this?
What do you need help with? The former Sangamon County Sheriff's deputy shot Massey down in her kitchen after she called 911 to check on a suspected prowler. Grayson testified that he viewed Massey's pot of boiling water as a threat and was trained to use force to gain compliance. The trial, which began last week, largely focused on disturbing body camera footage recorded by Grayson's partner in the early morning hours of the deadly 2024 incident. Prosecutors said Grayson failed to render medical aid to Massey right after the shooting. After the verdict, we sat down with Massey's father, cousin, and family friend.
To the Grayson family, what do you say to them?
I feel sorry for them. The mother came over and apologized, and she said, we did not raise him that way, and I'm really sorry for your family. My heart goes out to them. We lost Sonia, but they lost a son, and what he did for Sonia, he has to pay, and they realize that.
Earlier this year, Sangamon County paid out $10 million in a wrongful death lawsuit, although the family said they would give all that money back to have Sonia with them. Grayson is expected to be sentenced in January. He is facing up to 20 years in prison. Tony?
Tarika, thank you very much.
That if you want ultimate expression of white supremacy and the white supremacist mentality, and you want to put it in the form of one person that I would name, and that's something I very seldom do, it would be Jeffrey Dahmer. He's the ultimate expression of white supremacy. Everything that he was doing, working in a chocolate factory, the whole 9 yards, storing black male bodies in canisters of lye and alcohol and whatnot, got them in the refrigerator, cannibalism and all of that, and calm, very methodical, even when questioned by the law enforcement officers, very calm. Hannibal Lecter.
Frozen femurs in the freezer. Jeffrey Dahmer.
Thanks for joining us for the CBS 58 News at 9. I'm Monserrico Sam. A mother and a community continue to grieve Sade Robinson. She was just 19 years old when she was killed and dismembered last April. Sade's loved ones are still working hard to keep her memory alive. Andy Bernhardt was at Warnemount Park in Cudahy and shares how family is turning a place of pain into a positive one.
The ribbon has been cut and a new bench is on display here at Warnemount Park, all in honor of Sade Robinson. You can see it has a plaque featuring a picture of Sade with the words, "Still Sade rises spiritually, saving lives."
In the heart of this gathering, our spirits align to honor Sade Robinson, a spirit divine.
She gave to so many. She loved so many. An emotional day as Sade Robinson's mother, Sheena Scarborough, honored her daughter, who is loved by so many in the community.
Yesterday, I officially made 19 months from the last time I seen my baby.
Robinson was killed last April, and Scarborough says she will always carry the pain of losing her 19-year-old daughter.
Throughout the trial, throughout grief, you know, we never really got a funeral for a baby.
A bench constructed in Sade's memory to turn a place Scarborough says is tainted with pain and darkness into a positive one, radiating the light Sade was to those around her.
This is the location where My baby was dismembered. There's a lot of heavy, negative, energy here. It affected the entire community throughout the trial, what we all had to endure and walk through together.
The bench surrounded by 3 newly planted trees in Sade's honor, bringing new life to Warnemont Park.
Sade, you're here with us in spirit. We love you so much.
Forever in our hearts, we say her name, Sade.
Her mom says they will continue to keep Sade's memory alive, not just through memorials, but through her foundation, Sade's Voice. She says that foundation is to help with other missing people and victims of crime. Back to you.
A touching tribute. Maxwell Anderson, the man convicted of killing Sade Robinson, was sentenced to life in prison for Sade's murder.
O'Donnell has it blocked into the end zone in a race, and a touchdown. Sam Williams blocked it. Kneeland, the touchdown.
The man race, class, genre, and the dilemmas of black manhood.
We start with breaking news and new details in the last hour about the death of Dallas Cowboys player Marshawn Kneeland. Texas DPS says troopers were involved in a traffic stop last night on the Dallas North Tollway near Keller Springs Boulevard. They say there was a pursuit, but they lost sight of the vehicle. They eventually found it abandoned after a crash on Dallas Parkway near Warren Parkway. Frisco police say at about 1:30 this morning, officers and troopers searched the area. According to the news release from DPS, they found the driver, 24-year-old Marshawn Kneeland, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. We've got team coverage this morning with our CBS News Texas sports team, Bree Aldridge and Johnny Resendez. Bree, let's start with you. What have you learned from the team?
Well, Karen, as soon as the news came out this morning, teammates like Wanye Thomas tweeted, "Sick to my stomach," feeling the same as many who are just learning of his passing. He was very close to Cowboys linebacker DeMarvion Overshone, who I'm told is taking this news hard, as you can imagine. Marshawn Kneeland was a bubbly guy who I personally got to sit down with in Oxnard his rookie season. This is when he was kind of forced into a starting role when Sam Williams went down with a season-ending injury. He expressed the excitement that the then defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer, had faith in his abilities, and he wanted to prove he was not only solid in the run game, but also show he could rush the pass. Monday night, Kneeland recovered a blocked punt in the end zone for his first career touchdown. That play circulating over social media this morning. An emotional day. The Cowboys locker room just lost a light, and I wanted to check in at the Star. That's where we find our Johnny Resendez, who is currently there this morning. And Johnny, I can imagine what the mood is like, but how are things in Frisco?
Hey, Bree, we've been here at the Star in Frisco for a little over an hour, right? And as you can see, not a lot is going on behind me. Now, the people that we have been able to talk to who decided not to go on camera, to my surprise, have been completely shocked of the news. Everything is slowly starting to set in. Whenever I was talking to people, it was the first they heard of this Marshawn Kneeland tragedy. Now, of course, we're going to stick around here to get more reaction from Cowboys Nation throughout the day. But as you know, Bree, normally on a week where they would be playing, we would be hearing from head coach Brian Schottenheimer and the players on a Thursday. But as you could imagine, they, along with the fans, are mourning the loss of a man who was gone way too soon. Like I said, we will hopefully get more information and more reaction from the fan base at 4 and 5. Karen, for now, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Johnny, thank you so much. And we do have multiple resources on this story today, and we'll have much more coming up on air and online at cbstexas.com.
Well, the heartbreaking loss is once again shining a spotlight on mental health. After Kneeland's death, the tragedy has left many people now wondering, how can we better support those who are struggling? We've got Nicole Nielsen covering that side of the story.
A tragedy and reminder once again today that mental health struggles don't discriminate. Even as a celebrity or an athlete, suicide continues to impact lives regardless of fame or success.
It doesn't matter how rich or famous or how talented you are.
It's hard to talk about suicide, but Dallas psychologist Dr. Jaya Matthews says she hopes today's news of Dallas Cowboy player Marshawn Kneeland reminds you how important of a conversation it truly is.
We avoid this like the plague. We have to ask the question.
When a public figure dies by suicide, she says it can be a turning point for others who are struggling in silence, particularly men.
High stakes, high pressure, high demand. Research does show that there are more men that end up dying by suicide.
Dr. Matthews says she's aware that the NFL has taken steps in recent years to expand mental health resources for players, including clinicians on site, but says more often than not, it takes a loved one to recognize warning signs like feeling hopeless, giving away possessions, or suddenly isolating. She says just ask the hard question.
Data shows it's by asking the question that we then open the door for hope. If you know of someone that has lethal medication or guns, please put them away safely.
You don't need to have all the answers. Just listen and connect them to an expert.
Most recent CDC data shows that 49,000 Americans died by suicide. That is one person every 11 minutes.
And while the loss of a public figure like Marshawn Kneeland is devastating, Dr. Matthews hopes it sparks the hard conversation and saves more lives.
Let this be a call to action. Let's make a commitment to checking in on one another and asking these questions about mental illness or mental health.
In Fort Worth, Nicole Nielsen, CBS News, Texas.
Well, if you or someone you know is ever experiencing a mental health crisis, help is available. It's a message long shared by Dallas's own quarterback, Dak Prescott. On game days, his wrist tape is often bearing the writing, "Ask for help," after Prescott lost his brother to suicide back in 2020. Reaching out really is the first step. You can call the Suicide and the Crisis Lifeline at 988. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And again, Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Kneeland dead at the age of 24. We will, of course, continue to follow the developments in this very tough story on air and online at cbsnewstexas.com.
Condolences to the family of Marshawn Kneeland. And certainly our recognition. Sade C. Robinson. They had the memorial just this week, 19 years old. 24, 19, respectively. That is about what you can expect in the system of white supremacy. If you are classified as not white, you are not supposed to pile up large numbers of constructive years, doing great things and learning and then applying all that you have learned in a constructive way and parenting and seeing your children develop and do constructive things. That is supposed to be super limited, if not totally obliterated, where you get very little time, and that time will be wasted doing non-constructive, destructive things, maybe even lead to you not being here very long. Exactly what racists have intended for us. The worthless Negro from Virginia, Gus T. Renegade, in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy. Today's date, Saturday, November 8, 2025. So I have been told. Our weekly broadcast, Compensatory Call-In. Dial in if you have thoughts, observations on what is going down on the plantation. I know we were talking last week, this is before the election, about Mayor-elect Mamdani, and is he classified as white? And I did not get any new information this week to answer that question. I saw they showed people that are so-called Muslims saying that this is our moment and this is the best thing ever, but I mean, that's not a racial classification. Even Brother Malcolm told us this, that he saw blue-eyed, light-skinned Muslims. So have I. So, is he classified as white? I still didn't get, or I didn't learn anything new from everything that transpired this week. His triumph notwithstanding, I did not get any new information about, is this a white dude? And they do have non-white mayors in New York, obviously. Any hoodles, the number 720-716-7300, the code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. 720-716-7300, the code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Man, what this has been, what a stressful year, like from beginning to end, just massively stressful all year long, and deliberately so. I cannot say that enough. Deliberately so. Now, when I woke up, what was that, Wednesday morning, I believe? Wednesday morning, right in the middle of the week, the day that young 24-year-old Marshawn Kneeland, the day that he passed, I woke up and saw that this had transpired and was stunned. Just, what? He's 24. And I cannot think of, I think they said there may have been another one. And I know we just had Damar Hamlin, but to have a current active football player who right at the beginning of their career, they are out there on the roster, not even just, hanging out on the bench or what have you, a fringe member of the team. They play. They are out on the field, running around, just played on Monday Night Football and scored a touchdown in front of millions. And then 2 days later, just what? I cannot think of another incident like that at all. Certainly there have been lots of football players who have died, even been killed, committed suicide, but I cannot think of an active, current roster football player. That is stunning. It was on all over the news after it transpired this week. I think he took his own life that Wednesday night, and then it became big news that Thursday morning, I believe. But absolutely stunning. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she said, if you are a victim of white supremacy, you do not qualify for mental health. That would be all of us, herself included. We talked about this over and over. If you're a victim of racism, you do not qualify. And when I mentioned this before, I said, hey, I've heard this for years. We've talked about this, where people will suggest, this is other non-white people will suggest that, hey, black people do not commit suicide. We are super strong people and everything that we've endured, and we just don't commit suicide. That is nonsense. That is absolutely not true. I have not heard any evidence. It's been days since this occurred. I've not heard not one shred of evidence that, this was not him taking his own life, that maybe something else happened. In fact, they released records saying that his attempted family, they had made wellness check requests prior to him taking his own life, that he had talked about, he had made suicidal comments, that they had concerns about his mental health prior to all of this, and that authorities went to do a mental wellness or just a wellness check, and he wasn't there. They didn't make contact, so they canceled the call. But I do not want to hear that. We have lots of examples, and in fact, we've done programs. They've had lots of recent reports, and when I say recent, like within the last 5 years, since the COVID years, which was not good for our mental health at all. But they had lots of reports talking about how for younger black people, and the parameters they set were like under 25, and particularly in their teens, but for younger black people, suicide is on the rise. And they said this could be a confluence of variables, all of the social media, racism, COVID-19 and how much that disrupted school and health impact of all of that, and the mask squabbles, racism, all the rest of it. But confluence of variables, food, just lots of things. But at any rate, lots more mental health issues for those phones, lots more mental health issues for younger black people, and the result is increase in suicide for younger black people. And I believe a lot of those reports, it was under 25. I just said Marshawn Kneeland, 24. And I did hear it mentioned, they said, especially with athletes, professional athletes, that, oh man, they get on that social media and you get to, matter of fact, they just had a report this week. Now they were talking about the so-called amateur athletes and how, because they got all this gambling, oh my God, that's a whole nother program. But they were talking about because they got all this gambling now, it's legalized and advertised out of the woo. They say that you got amateur white athletes being threatened with death from these gamblers. Like you went out there and didn't do right on the softball pitch, or, you know, and they're talking to like a 20-year-old or something. Like, you cost me a lot of money, man. I had ideas. I was going to get a new roof on my house and you messed. Ooh, if I have to come on campus and get you. Like, what? But hey, you can bet on all that stuff now. So, you know, now imagine, because I did hear this, imagine that for professional athletes where you can, you know, they didn't have it legal the way it is now, but they've been encouraging gambling on that for a long time. Bill Russell talked about that. That's like $1 billion industry to itself. I just said he played on Monday Night Football. That alone, just the gambling and wagering on Monday Night Football alone is probably $1 billion industry for white people, racists. So you can imagine, if you are a Negro male and you don't do right and all that, and you don't count lazy Negro and I'll cut your testicles off, and that's probably, and even if you just have that on top of, I'm a victim of white supremacy in Texas. And in fact, they said, we heard the news report from Frisco. Now, you know, Frisco, that's where they got that case with the black track athletes, I think it was. They were at the high school in Frisco, and he stabbed the white dude in the chest. Remember? That case is still going to trial. I think it's probably going to trial next spring, I believe. But all that happened in the same area. Just system of white supremacy. But who knows what he was enduring, what sort of assistance he had. They got lots of racially restricted regions around the Dallas area. Matter of fact, they got whole books about the racism that black players for the Dallas Cowboys have experienced down through the years. They have whole books about this, where they weren't allowed to buy property in certain areas. I just said we read that in James Lowen Sundown Towns, that they have lots of racially restricted regions all around Dallas, and some of them they'll have park at the end to kind of designate, this is a great area. We don't have no niggers, but this is a great area. Ooh, you're gonna love it. But, and they have, like I said, they have whole books that talk about all of the racism that the players had to endure and blah blah blah, especially early on. Anyway, system of white supremacy, but the man not. And, oh my goodness, how many times has Gus T said CTE? I mean, condolences to Mr. Kneeland's attempted family. He had a care mate. I think his care mate was pregnant. Prayers to her. But man, I did think CTE. Is this a variable in what took place? That did come to my mind immediately. And in fact, even if it didn't, the local Dallas newspaper, they had a story within 24 hours, and I believe within 12 hours they had the same question. CTE. Is this a result of what happens when you damage your brain computer? Certainly everyone who plays football doesn't commit suicide, but I feel I'd be remiss, or at least kind of a lazy journalist, if I didn't mention Antonio Brown got arrested this week. You said, who is Antonio Brown? Privileged black male football player who took a lot of hits to the head. And in fact, we've talked on this broadcast about old Antonio Brown before, and folks saying he has acted wild and loony all his life. I think he's played tackle football all his life. But he got arrested this week. So, could that be a product of CTE? Now, you can't diagnose until the person, is deceased, and then you can study the brain and all, but man, I don't know if the family will donate, if they will allow studies to be done on Mr. Kneeland, but I would be very curious, There is a reason Gus T says, hey, if you have male, non-white offspring, especially if they're classified as black, all that football stuff should be poison, even if we move all the brain damage aside, which I mean, what's more important than your brain computer? Well, we move that to the side. I'm theorizing. I'm not no doctor. I'm just theorizing. Will Smith did do concussion. Anyway, even from a time and energy perspective, the great Neely Fuller Jr. talked about uses of time and energy. Haven't we seen generations of black males throw away hours and hours and hours and hours? I got to watch every football game. I got to play Madden. I might have to go out on the field and get a little brain damage myself, and give me that pigskin, and I'm all run up and down the field, and woo! Haven't we seen enough of that? What is the end result? To tell me that the best I can get is either exercise, and that's going to be it for most. You get some exercise and a little brain damage. Or maybe a few, you can go to college. And now they got the NIL, so that makes it even worse, because they'll say, hey, at least a few of you could go to college and get NIL and get pretty good money for 4 years. So you could get some brain damage and you could get good money. I mean, hey, if you're pretty good, you could get $1 million. You could make a lot of money. Now, I could see where that might, man, at least get a good health insurance program, save your money. Like, that would be a different conversation. Like, if you're really going to be in that. But I mean, for most people, that's not, that's, come on. That's not, at most, maybe you could play high school. Maybe. And again, for brain damage, to tear your ACL, they got non-contact sports where you could do all that. You could get your NIL at the college level, all of that. You get the video game, no brain damage. That is a much better, much healthier option than football. And again, time and energy. Haven't we seen enough generations of privileged black males put all their time and energy into tackle football? In a system of white supremacy, what sense does that make? They already said you starting to see more white parents for the exact reason I just CTE. You're starting to see more white parents say, no, thank you, I'm good. Protect my child's white brain community. We need more generations of Strom Thurmans where they can live to be 100 years old, practice racism for 10 decades. That's what we need, not you out there busting your head around. And then you can't even say your name by the time you're 45. If you live that long, we don't know. We don't need that. We don't need that. You got more white parents making that choice. All of the black parents should make that choice. Why do I need my child's brain computer messed up? We need more black children using their brain computer to replace white supremacy with justice. That's what we need. Dr. Welsing, scientist, not, he can get that touchdown and do that thing. He start doing the boogaloo at the 10-yard line. No. We've seen all that. Forget all that. We're done with that. We're done with that. And then they get the Jerry Sandusky molest your child on top of, come on, we're done with that. I get brain damage and molestation. We're done with that. We're done with that. We're done with that. Tackle foot. Come on. Come on. Come on. It's 2025. We can do way, way better. Man. Mental health. And for mental health, like, my goodness, like, how widespread is this? And because these fellas take a lot of medication and such, unless I have been misinformed. And the whole code, I'm not hurt, I can play. I'm not hurt, I can play. I'm not, that's right, the whole, that's, I mean, if you could break a foot, you know, they brag about, I got a finger amputated and went out and played. So, I mean, certainly if I'm a little depressed, if I feel bad because the gamblers called me nigger and threatened to kill me and chop my testicles off because I cost them $20,000, well, you know, I can't let that keep me down. Come on, I don't feel bad. Come on, coach, I'm ready to play. Like, what? I just can't imagine. I think we can let the football thing go. We have better things to do with our time and energy. Anyway, I know we almost watched DeMar Hamlin die on the field, and that didn't really change a whole lot. So, you know, whatever. We'll take a few seconds for Marshawn Kneeland. All right, we're gonna watch the game. We got the game. Hey, we got the game. Certainly, Super Bowl. Dallas might make the Super Bowl this year. We'll play in honor of Mr. Kneeland. Hey, win that game. Now, let's see. It just so happened I had it on my calendar. Anyway, there was going to be at the University of Washington, and you can pull it up yourself. This is posted like eons ago. You know, race soldiers, they plan things out in advance. It was on the University of Washington's calendar for Friday, November 7 at 10:30 a.m. to have Tracy Canada, victim of white supremacy. I believe she's a black female, but I didn't ask her to specify, doing a lecture how black college football players tackle their everyday. The description reads, college football, with its prestige, drama, media, and money, is a core feature of the sporting landscape in the U.S. However, the promises of an amateur system that offers a free education contradict the reality. Based on long-term ethnographic research, Canada describes how the system particularly harms, disadvantages, and exploits the black men who are demographically overrepresented on gridirons across the country. That would be another reason for us. Hey, we are good with tackle football. Has tackle football been that good to us over all this time? I mean, we can look back like Mike Vick, Randy Cunningham, Walter Payton, the Fridge. It's been that good to us over all these years. Tackle football. RG3, it's been that good to us over all these years. She continues, based on in this talk, she highlights how she engages multiple audiences in her ethnographic writing, which details how black college football players tackle the systems that structure their everyday lives and who help them do it. And again, Tracy Canada, I say black, or it says she is a black feminist anthropologist. So there you go. Black female, but black feminist anthropologist. So she does her talk. I was not physically on campus, but I had this event on my calendar. I got the notification and they had this live and via Zoom. So I tuned in via Zoom to Compensate. Now, I will concede I'm a no-count Negra, and I was about 8-10 minutes slow in logging in. I think it started at 10:30. And I think I logged in at 10:40. Now, when I logged in, she was not even talking. It was a black male giving the introduction for her talk and talking a little bit about it's the 4th Sam Dubai Memorial Lecture. That was a part of her presentation, and they were giving some recognition to non-white males. Sam Dubai, I think his parents were a part of the presentation. I did get to hear them speak at the end of Miss Canada's lecture. So given that I probably missed the first 8 minutes or so of the talk, other than that, I heard everything from beginning to end. I did not tune out, take a phone call, do anything during the entire conversation. I was right there and actively listening for the duration. I did not hear nary a mention of Marshawn Kneeland. Now, granted, Mr. Kneeland is a professional tackle football player, and she was talking specifically about college tackle football players. Mr. Kneeland did play college tackle football, and he played recently, like within the last 3 years, probably within the time that she was doing the research for this book that she talked about in the research for her talk. And he's only been in the NFL for 2 years. His rookie year was last year, so he is very close to his college time playing the exact sport that she was talking about. So I did think that that was significant, noteworthy, that apparently no one asked about Mr. Kneeland, and she did not bring that up in her talk. I'm definitely going to go back to double check, but I was kind of stunned. I was waiting because, that just literally happened 2 days before she spoke. Now, it may have been that it was so recent that, she already had her talking points together and all of that, and or since she, I don't believe, lives in the Texas area, maybe she didn't hear about it, but I don't live in the Texas area either, and I saw it all over the news in a variety of formats. So, I don't know. That struck me as even a little bit odd for the audience, not someone even asking a question like, wow, this just happened, mental health. Anyway, so I sat in the talk, and she said she's a black feminist, and she does this talk on black male football players at the collegiate level and the difficulties that they go through, and the racism, and talking about how the coaches don't even know their name, and whatever, you're just a position, get over there, cog in the machine, very invisible man. Dr. Martin Kevorkian would probably relate to the way that these players felt that they were just nobodies and parts of a machine for these college football, white college football coaches. But she referenced bell hooks and other noted feminists, put that in quotes, in discussing these black male players. And I thought it very curious that, we at the Cows have talked to a number of black male gender studies scholars. Dr. T. Hassan Johnson has been a guest with us, Dr. Tommy J. Curry many times, and others, where we have talked about black misandry there. And in fact, even this kind of reminded me, it reinforces the notion that gender studies is exclusively about females. That is the only gender, and that's all we're talking about when we say gender studies. This has nothing to do with anything male, non-white male, certainly not. Get out of here. When we say gender studies, it really just means female, and mostly white female studies. Now, it stood out to me because I said, dang, like there are black males in gender studies, black masculine studies, where they have talked about this explicitly, even in a current time frame, in terms of black male tackle football players and white supremacy racism. They have no useful insight, no framework. It has to be, in fact, even the broader context for all of this, we're at a university, 60,000 student body, University of Washington, Seattle campus, 60,000 student body, that's graduate and undergraduate. They have at most 5% black students, at most. Most of those are not black dudes. It's the same as it is everywhere else. Mostly black females. You don't even have but a teaspoon, and I mean a teaspoon of black dudes on your campus who could even attend a lecture like this anyway. On a campus where they got rid of affirmative action like deliberately, vehemently, decades ago, which led to, you don't have too many Leroys around here anyway. This is the same campus where I said, dang, y'all had a public health symposium with almost no black male representation, and you did nothing to offer resources or help to black males. One of the few times now we can discuss black male issues, it has to be not just presented from a black female, which would be fine, but also through the lens of feminism. Like, dang. And I said, wait a minute, maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm, being wrong. But I said, wait a minute. Some of these feminists I've read, Bell Hooks, the late, some of them are flagrantly hostile to black males. That could be a bit of a problem if we're going to evaluate with any accuracy and or sympathy, if we're going to evaluate the plight of the black male. Then I said, wait a minute. So what would happen if, not myself, someone worthy, credentialed, Dr. Tommy J. Curry, what would happen if he said, I'm going to write a book, do a lecture series on Serena Williams, Simone Biles, and the racism that they experience as black female athletes, but I'm going to do so from a black masculine lens. And I'll go and get all these black male scholars and how they talk about racism against black males, but I'll use that as my lens for how I evaluate Serena Williams and Simone Biles. Now, if such a project already exists, you let me know. I'm pretty certain it's not popular. They're not invited to white college campuses to speak. I know it would be a massive critique. What in the world? What in the world? If you all can, hey, check me if I'm talking wild and wacky, but you'd have to let me know if does such a book exist? Serena Williams is pretty popular, right? I would think someone would know. Does a book exist like that, where it's a black dude writing, and he's saying, I'm going to specifically write and use a black masculine lens to write about the racism that Serena Williams has experienced? I'm not aware of that. And even like I said, that really wouldn't capture it in the totality, because I said this is done in a context where black males are excluded all the time. In a variety of pretty much anything that's constructive. Black male, get on out of here, Leroy. Even in a talk that is specifically about black dudes. I would love to have been there. How many black dudes is present? And did you steal these folks from like the custodial staff, or like, put them fries down for a little bit. Come on over here. We're gonna let you come back. You're not gonna miss any hours. Just come on over here. We need to make sure it doesn't look like just a bunch of white people and lots of white women came to, because the moderator, even white women, can't just look like a bunch of white women came to hear the talk about the plight of the Negro baby. Yeah. Well, just put that mop down. You put that down. We got it. Just sit in here and sit quietly. That's all right. I'm not saying that happened. I'm just saying that, hey, I've been at the University of Washington campus many times. They don't have no whole lot of Negro males. They don't have a whole lot of black people, but they don't have no whole lot of Negro males. Anyway. But I did ask a question in the midst of all of this. If I had been there, I would have asked in person, and I would have been able to tell you how many black dudes they had. My question was, why is black feminist scholarship the framework used to view the abuse of black males? Some, not all, of the black feminist canon is explicitly anti-black male, including some of Bell Hooks' work. Are there gender studies scholars who examine black masculinity that may better serve an analysis of black male football players? I snuck in 2 questions and a statement. I was almost Twitter valid. I was 47 characters over the limit with what I typed. I could have easily sniped that parentheses about Bell Hooks, and I would have been Twitter ready. For context, the other folks who posted questions in the chat about the same length. not super long in my view. As you heard, it's about 3 sentences, 2 questions. There was a white female moderator, of course, largest demographic at the University of Washington and most academic settings, white females. She was the moderator, and she did not read my question in its totality. She paraphrased and deliberately omitted the portion about the canon of black feminist scholarship being explicitly anti-black male. Some of it, not all. And that could be said for feminist scholarship in total. She deliberately left that part out, and I went back and said something about that in the comments, about the white moderator omitting that portion of my question, which was crucial. And she even commented about that during the live lecture. I recorded all this and said, man, I should upload since I did ask that question, and they did respond to it repeatedly. But also just because when Miss Canada, she responded, now this is the black female victim who gave a lecture, wrote the book and everything, black feminist, when she responded to my question, it almost sounded like she got a bit, I would say like a 1/4 teaspoon of snark. I mean, she was professional, and she gave her response. It's on record. And just say, hey, again stating I'm a black feminist, and that's my lens, and this is an ethnography, and anyone can study, and from whatever their perspective that they want, which is great. But I mean, again, I can't say it. Even if it was myself, if I was going to go and say, hey guys, I'm interested in studying racism for whatever reason, hey, Simone Biles, Serena Williams, we could talk about how all the racism that they've experienced in their career, and maybe interest some other scholars in doing similar research. Boom. If I was going to do so, I would feel a bit, I don't know, incorrect. If I was going to, this is going to be done from a dude's perspective, and we're going to lead on masculine studies to frame how we view these black female athletes. At minimum, I would be thinking like, ew, I'm probably going to get quite a bit of resistance. I'll have to be prepared to explain why I'm doing it in this way. How does this serve the scholarship to getting a more accurate understanding of what Miss Biles, Miss Williams have experienced? They'd have to detail it for me. Anyway, and I'd even forgotten, it is as though the Academy, white people, they deliberately work to exclude black males. You can only talk about racism if you're going to talk about black feminism, if you're going to talk about black females. And I heard this recently. I was just at the University of Washington, different facility. I was there in person, and I heard a faculty member say, that's the way that you can really understand slavery is through the black female. Again, totally in an environment where they already exclude black males. The only way to study slavery is through black, and that was the talk, a study of slavery that totally excluded black males. And I've seen this happen there repeatedly, over and over and over and over. Like I said, I went to the public, even when they're talking about things from a historical perspective or talking about things current day, deliberate exclusion of black males. Just like I told you, I went to the Seattle Public Library, not University of Washington affiliated. They did a Black History exhibit and deliberately excluded black males. Any hoodles. And it was white women in charge there too. They always say, it's the man, it's white men. Nah, man. I even thought about that from a mathematical perspective. There are more white women numerically than white men. When people give a perspective of white supremacy racism that posits that it is the man and they just focus on white men, mathematically you're excluding the majority of racists, because most of the racists are white women. They mathematically outnumber white men, so I mean, hey, let's come on now. Anyway, you can let me know about, I have to upload the talk, I reckon, so folks can listen. But you can let me know, hey, if you know of a book, like I said, about Serena Williams from the black masculine perspective, let me know. Book, film, whatever it is. Let's see. The reports that we heard in the news, I will just say the Dick Cheney passed. Man, and out of all the things that happened and what have you, I hope people do not forget Dick Cheney's involvement in Hurricane Katrina and Iraq. Lots of things where non-white people died and or suffered, but I had totally forgotten, like, oh, that's right, Hurricane Katrina too. Like, long legacy. People can easily forget things, myself included. The persecution of white people in Nigeria, I'm so glad my BFF Amy Goodman, suspected racist, I'm so glad that she mentioned the population in Nigeria. By 2100, Nigeria is projected to have 1 billion black people. Billion. White people have been talking about this for like before George Floyd was killed. I think white people were talking about this like ominously before Michael Brown Jr. was killed. And I think I could go back and get the exact date. Like, is that true? I think it is. They've been talking about this for a long time. Like, oh my God, the numbers of dark people. What we gonna do? Is it enough Ebola? That what we gonna do? I've never heard them talk about this. Like, this is a great thing, and wow, all those people, economic opportunity. We could sell a lot of iPhones out there. Woo! No. Way too many dark people. What we gonna do in the face of them saying we don't have enough people to take care of all these old whiteys? Hey, maybe we get them some visas. They come over here and take care of these old decrepit white people. Nah. None of that. Now, and 2100, 1 billion black people in just Nigeria, and all that oil. I do think that's secondary to the population of black people, but whatever. Equally, or not equally, but both important. Not equally. That for the context of now, oh man, for the second time this year, white peoples is being persecuted. We got to do something about it. White peoples is being persecuted in Africa. Wow. I don't ever in my life remember people talking about white peoples in Africa. Now, I guess in the 80s this was being talked about. I have seen the newspaper reports, so I was not paying attention, all the rest of it, whatever. But I guess white people were being persecuted in the 80s, and this was being talked about as, oh no, same type of thing. What are we going to do? And Mandela and his cousins cutting a fool in South Africa, and Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, that sort of thing. But wow, like certainly since I have been paying attention to counter racism, I do not recall white people, our white brothers and sisters are catching a bad time in Africa, and we got to do something. Like, what? I mean, wow. And in multiple locations, apparently South Africa, and I just like, wow, what is going on in Africa? What does it, if anything, once again, what does it mean to be white? And I do not think if these so-called Christians, if they were, if they look like Robert Mugabe, I do not think there would be no call for intervention. The religion of white supremacy. And this might be another part of end stage white supremacy, where white people, because they feel vulnerable, they really show the global Voltron effect. We are all white and in this together. And oh man, anything we got to do to prop up, and you might see lots of this way, and where they make it on an explicitly racial basis. The fact that you are white is why we're doing this. And I humbly submit, white Jesus, the same thing, saying that we got to go in, the Christians are being hurt, that white, unless you can show me that these Christians look like Nelson Mandela or something, that's what this is on the basis of. Let's see, the shutdown and the impact of the stoppage or delay or half funding of the SNAP benefits. One, I'm reminded we have listeners who are not in the U.S. Hopefully they are hearing all of this. Like, what is going on? End stage white supremacy. It is a total lie. Oh, we don't have it. We just don't. We can't fund the SNAP benefit. We hurting right now. Total lie. And they've shown where they've kind of picked and chosen, things that they want to fund during this so-called shutdown, which could be stopped at any time. white people choosing we'll do the shutdown, and then choosing what selectively will be funded and what won't be during the so-called shutdown. Not disaggregating left, right, liberals, Democrats, people classified as white are to blame. But I'm glad people, other parts of the world, seeing all of this, with the benefits. 35% of the individuals who receive benefits, according to the USDA's own statistics, are classified as white. So that's a substantial number of racists being messed over. You heard some in the PBS NPR reporting on all that, but 65% of SNAP recipients are not white. That also, I humbly submit, would be a reason why. Oh, yeah, we got to delay and lie. And we don't know if we just hurting, we ain't got it, and oh, what we gonna do? Yeah, you might have some white sacrifice, and might even have some white people complaining, man, we can't have our turkey dinner. Man, you messing up, we can't have our Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah, might be true. But again, white people have much better safety nets than non-white people. And hey, we will endure some white sacrifice in the midst of all of this, for sure. End stage white supremacy, I humbly submit, through and through. The Aurora College incident that was also on the football team, now that would be a whole nother component. The racist coaches, racist teammates that you have to endure, and all the different episodes like this that happen. This was Brooke Williams, all these other incidents that happen where they get verbally abused, physically abused, sodomized, sometimes called a negra. You got to transfer off the team. He talked about wasting all that money and time and energy and losing time. He said he have to wait until January till he can switch out to another school. He doesn't know where he wants to go. All of that is why, hey, there are better ways we can invest our time and energy. We've seen I didn't hear that as a result of all this that he got a fat NIL check and he's, investing his money wisely in the meantime and waiting until January. And once he gets back out on that field, he'll have 4 or 5 pending NIL offers. And so, hey, things will be looking up. I didn't hear that. Just saying, we got better ways to invest our time, safer ways where we can get a little exercise and protect our brain computer, and you can still play college athletics. They have lots of sports that do not involve physical contact, smashing my brain into the ground or another person's brain. Let's see. And they said that the Civil Rights Division, mostly what they handle is complaints of white supremacy racism. That's the exact folks that got furloughed, fired, at least delayed, like they not coming in right now. Those the folks sitting around. You think we gonna have a job? Did we get fired? Oh man, what we gonna do? Do we need to get a set? That's exactly who they're talking about. The people that deal with, so that's what they've been saying the whole year. You got anything to do with anything sound like DEI? You might be trying to help out the dark people. Ooh, you better have your resume up to date. The segment about the young white student, he was wearing the Confederate flag shirt and they called a big kerfuffle at the school. That I blame the administrators and the teachers, because I know they've had so many reports where it was non-white students and they had like Black Lives Matter shirts and they did, whoa, Lakeisha, you can't wear that here. You've got to call your parents or grandma or somebody. They got to come and we can't wear inflammatory clothing. You'll disrupt the learning environment. That's what I've heard for. And in fact, it doesn't even have to be that. It could just be if you're a young lady and you got the shorts are too short or too revealing or something of that. Whoa, you can't wear all that here. Got to cover that up. You got to get something. I've heard that forever. So how could it be Confederate flag? You got all this and Dylan Roof and take it up and all that. And you get to wear a Confederate flag and nobody said, whoa. Okay, Johnny. Okay, you got to go get your sweatshirt, or you have to get your mom to bring you another shirt. You're disrupting the learning environment. That's controversial. Come on. Come on now. I will say I'm not for going and starting a fight, physically hitting someone because they got on a Confederate flag shirt. Lots of white people do this. You'll be in fights all the time, and that just means that you'll have an extensive criminal record for assault. So, and that's might even be what they do, expel all the black people who, engaged in this fight. So that is not the best way that you want things to work out. I wouldn't encourage that. But again, why isn't policy and procedure being enforced? You have a dress code, yes. You can just wear anything you want to. My child could come to school with a shirt with a middle finger on it. Black Lives Matter, yes. Come on. Let's see. Speaking of middle finger, in Baltimore County Public Schools, that's where the AI security system, it saw a black child with a bag of Doritos, said, oh my goodness, he's got a Glock, send in the SWAT team. And that's what they did. They put him at gunpoint and threw him on the ground. Him and his friend, put on the ground. Give me the gun. Give me the gun. He said, I don't know. I got Cool Ranch. I said last week, I said, man, I've been tubby and I ate a lot of Doritos. I'm going to tell you, I ate your share, my share, your mama's share Doritos. Like I wolfed them down. I never in my wildest nightmare thought, ooh, you better be careful how you munch on them Cool Ranchers, brother. Man, they will think that is boy, you better eat one at a time. Eat one at a time and chew them slow. I never had that thought I've eaten thousands of Doritos. I never thought like, whoa. Somebody might think let me crack this in half. There we go. I don't want it to be too big because they might, think I got an AR-15 or something. It's just a Dorito. It's just a tortilla chip. That's all. It's got a little extra seeds. That's all. But that was last week in Baltimore, and they said that they're going to review the security standards to make sure that doesn't happen again. Man, how many white students have been mistaken for having a firearm when they were eating a bag of Lay's potato chips? If I was a parent, I would want that sort of information. Like, how many times has this happened before? They told us that in Baltimore County Public Schools, they have security vestibules. I have never heard of that in my life. Like, what is that? I know they got the vestibule for the apartment. Like somebody comes and they ring the bell or what have you, and they're kind of down in the area and you can let them in and all that. But a security vestibule at the school? Like they have a whole little area with the resource officers to hang out, and they have like their security monitors. They're like, wow. Wow. They are doing it big in Baltimore County Public Schools with President Trump. He's rat-infested hell. Sonia Massey, black female, was killed, white race soldier, that he did not get first-degree murder, even though he said he was going to shoot her in her face and all that. Her black attempted parents were saying that they thought it was a disgrace, an outrage that the convicted killer, that he had worked at 6 previous police departments. All I can say is that is very routine, and there are lots of reports. Democracy Now! Had one of the young ladies on who did a report about this. They have really amazing titles. One of them is called The Wandering Officer, because we talked about all of this with Tamir Rice. Lohman, Eric Lohman, is it Eric Lohman? Lohman, anyway, Lohman is his name. Might even be Timothy Lohman. I was thinking, is it Tamir? Timothy Lohman. I think it is actually Timothy Lohman. Timothy Lohman, the white man who killed Tamir Rice. It was the same thing. Now, I don't think he had been at 6 different police departments throughout the Ohio area, but it was not his first time. And like the reason he had been to so many departments was because they said they didn't think he was fit to have a badge, carry a gun, be an enforcement officer. I suspect it was probably the same thing with Sonia Massey's killer. But again, white people do not get fired. They get transferred, apparently, over and over and over. You have to really mess up before and even Timothy Lohman, even after he killed Tamir Rice, He got hired by another police department. They had to go and protest. They're like, wait a minute. They said, oh, shucks. Oh, right. You right. We messed up. Darn. We tried, fella. We did it. They got us on that. Oh, well. We'll see if we can get you a good severance package, though. White people do not get fired. They get transferred, for sure. And I thought it was fascinating when they talked to the parents, Sonia, and they're victims. I'm not criticizing their victims. They're victims. But they said they were sorry for the white killer's family. They said that they lost their son. Victims guaranteed qualified. I don't understand. How did they lose their son? He's still alive. He's going to be sentenced. I think they said the maximum sentence is 20 years. I seriously doubt that this white man is going to get the maximum sentence. So even if he did, he would, be out. It's 2025, let's say 2026. So he'll be out in 2046 and, go on with his life. He's kind of young. He'll be middle-aged. He can go on. How did they lose their son? And that's if he gets the max and serves all 20 years, which I seriously doubt will happen. How did they lose their child? I think we're conditioned to feel sorry for white people. We're conditioned to forgive white people for practicing racism against us, and that includes killing us, our children, whole family. We are white Jesus, the religion of white supremacy. We have been conditioned for centuries to feel sorry for, empathize with white people way more so than black people. And there's even lots of data, the same way that I talked about the wandering officer, there's lots of data to confirm, we do not empathize with black people in the same way. I do not empathize with those white parents. Hey, him growing up to want to be an officer and all that, I'm sure you had a major part to do in all. Who more than you? You the parents? Who more than you? Where did y'all grow up at? In fact, did he grow up in a racially restricted? Let's get to that. Let's see why he would think of so little of someone like Sonia Massey. I do not fit VGQ. They can feel how they feel. The Massey parent, they feel how they feel how they feel. But I do not feel sorry for the parents. I do not think, just according to logic, they did not lose their son. They can do Zoom, call, visit, letters, and I seriously doubt he's going to get a 20-year sentence, so they'll be hanging out soon enough. Anyway, the last thing I'll say, I recognize I have the worst social skills in the world. Uncouth exponentially. What he is unprofessional, and he does not know how to talk to people. True, on all accounts. Heathen. Cows would be in a better spot if I had better social skills. I said, regretfully, I angered Ms. Scarborough. I made that post on social media about alcohol-related deaths in the state of Wisconsin, and I said then, I still say now, that Sade C. Robinson's murder is an alcohol-related death. She was underage, and they were at a bar with this race soldier, convicted killer. At any rate, I angered Miss Scarborough, Sade Robinson's mother, by sharing that post. Anger most non-white people that I come in contact with. But I said, man, upsetting her and, just ending contact from that moment, since I upset her so much with that post, man, it is probably for the best, because she did not have my views about the system of white supremacy racism, and we had talked about that before, and explicitly she, like so many, felt the need to volunteer. Hey, all white people is racist, that ain't cool. I've heard that many, many times. Like I said, what is it? VGQ. But man, I would have for sure upset her on this here week. Now, I'm glad I'm thousands, thank God, thousands of miles from Milwaukee and Wisconsin. I don't ever want to go back. It's awful there. Jeff Dahmer and more. Oh my God, I did learn a bunch, but wow, it is awful. Man, I learned so much. I would have been the worst at that memorial. She would have had to tell me in advance. All right, now look here, Gus. The rules are, don't say any. Don't open your mouth if you're going to come to the memorial, because I would have to, as soon as I get it. Number one, the memorial is not in Milwaukee. I went there, so I'm super informed. As soon as Warmont Park, I went to Warmont Park. That's not in Milwaukee, where it's mostly black people. Warmont Park is in Cudahy, next to the airport when you go into MKE. Cudahy, unlike Milwaukee, is a racially restricted region, and they let you know, don't know niggers live here, and they let Miss Scarborough know, don't know niggers live here. Are we paying for this nigger monument? Why are you all putting this nigger monument in here? Are we going to put up nigger monuments to every nigger that gets killed? What's going on here? I don't want to look at no nigger monument in Warmont Park. That's what the white people said on record. They didn't say we don't do no DEI in Warmont. They didn't say we don't get down with anti-racism in Cudahy. They said racist response to proposed memorial in Cudahy. I kept thinking back like, dang, was that this year? Yes, that was this year. They said, oh my God, the racist response. They had office holders in Milwaukee County collect the emails. I said, oh my God, can I see the emails? They published some of them. I would have brought all that up. They said, you bringing up old stuff. It was 2025. I would have been saying in advance, like, ooh, now let's see. And I told Miss Scarborough, I told her then, because she went through all that. She saw all that. She reminded me of it. The racist response. Man, let's see what the response is going to be for this. We had talked about it, in fact, before I upset her. We talked about this. I said, oh my Lord. They are going to be disgusted to see you Negroes come down there. Oh, my God. Like, what? You talking about inviting a whole lot of black people there? We don't even want no Negroes in Cudahy. You can look on the map of the demographic, which is what I keep saying. Milwaukee is a city that has mostly black people. That is the largest racial group there, Negroes, by a long shot. It is surrounded by racially restricted, and I mean, like, you walk across the street and it's, whoa, ain't no niggers here. Exactly. Now get back over there. That's what is surrounding Milwaukee. Cudahy is at the south part, but all the way around. Well, I forgot even the segment you heard about the teacher that was drunk at the school. That's right in Milwaukee County. Imagine being Leroy and you drunk at the school with a blood alcohol level that is 4 times the legal limit. Come on. They don't even allow Negro males to teach, and they got the, anyway. I'm glad it is for the better, because I for sure would have brought all that old stuff up from early 2025 about the flagrant racism. And they said, you going to spend tax dollars to put some Negro monument up? And put a name on it. Oh my God, man, I would have had them emails blown up. So if it didn't happen then, it would have happened now. It would have been about the same thing. My views on racism. Visit the foundation. Kudos, prayers to Sade C. Robinson's family. I posted links for the foundation earlier this week, and shame on Gus T for upsetting Sade's mother. I mean, best in the world. She already has enough, and heathen Gus T for getting on her nerves. But replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Let me make sure I give out the address for the foundation to support as well. If you go to Milwaukee, now you have a reason, even though it's not in Milwaukee. If you get close enough to Milwaukee, you can easily get to Cudahy. You can go see the bench. It's got a picture. It is beautiful. Go check it out. You can take, and Warmont Park is amazing. Ain't no black people in Cudahy, but Warmont Park is amazing. You can go check it out, and then unfortunately you can go to the bottom and say, oh man, that's where her remains were at. That's why she said it's kind of bittersweet, and I would feel some type of way about even going there. Anyway, the foundation is shadesvoicefoundation.com. shadesvoicefoundation.com. Support the foundation, support Miss Scarborough. They do coat tries, and it gets cold in Milwaukee. To hook up black children and support Sade's legacy, so you can always support what they are doing, SadesVoiceFoundation.com. Prayers to Miss Scarborough and her family, all the folks who went through all that hard work, and it was like months and months of work to get that memorial and that bench together. And direct opposition from racists document, like, it's so embarrassing. Like, her child was dismembered and killed, and that was the killer. That memorial, Warnemont Park, that's the killer. He called it at the trial. That was my secret hangout. That's what he called it at the trial. Said his ex-girlfriend called, that's my secret beach. I can't even tell you the name of it. That's why I said I would feel some type of way now, like, yeah. And we're in a racial, I would feel lots of types of, just wow. Prayers to Miss Scarborough, because she went through a lot to get that bench together and that memorial. Lots of hard work and direct opposition from racists who did not want it there at all. Any hoodles, let's see. Folks who have commentary to share, *61. I'm still kind of asking because I'm ignorant. Like Mayor-elect Mamdani, is he white? Yes? No? Do you know? Okay. Let's see. Folks who dialed in with a hand up, proceed.
Can I be heard?
I heard retired firefighter first. We'll get him first.
Greetings, everyone. I had plenty of time to do some searching about Mr. Mamdani. Is that the correct pronunciation? The Mamdani. Mr. Mamdani. I have here 3 columns. One is ethnicity, which I don't think that's what you were asking about. The other one was nationality, which I don't think you were asking about. But under race on Google, it says he has a multifaceted racial identity, and it's often described as belonging to multiple racial groups. He has been referred to as both African and South Asian. Still haven't gotten the race yet. Those are places. And his identity is often seen as a point of pride for people from both regions. There was somewhere in here that I read that he was identified as a person, quote unquote, of color. So that's the closest that I came to it. Other things that was on my mind for the week. I don't know if you put it on the incident where the white female teacher was shot by a 6-year-old a couple of years ago. Just recently, she was quote unquote awarded $10 million. Basically, the court system is going after, for the most part, non-white black administrators of that school. The target right now is a black female administrator. I'm using the term administrator because I'm not sure if she's the principal or not, but definitely she was an administrator. And they are not finished with her. They're saying the $10 million, she has some kind of connection to it being taken away and awarded with this white woman. quote unquote victim. But of course, $10 million not coming from her direct earnings. It comes from some other source. And they're not finished with other administrators at this school that they said contributed towards this white woman being severely wounded because there was a lot of people, and most of these people were non-white black people who knew that this child had a gun. Last but not least, recent news in South Florida, Miami-Dade County to be exact. My thoughts are on when a law enforcement officer dies or gets killed. The amount of what I'm going to identify as political action after death, it blocks the streets, it blocks the traffic, to whereas almost everything comes to a halt on the expressway. Is there such thing as overdoing it? I know by signing up for professions such as firefighting or law enforcement, that it is dangerous and you could get killed in the process of that job. In some cases, in the military, exactly, they often say to expect it, stop worrying about it, that sort of thing. But I just think it's a little bit too much when with these political shows that they put on after a law enforcement officer dies. One died less than 48 hours ago, and earlier maybe 2 weeks ago, another one got killed on his motorcycle. I don't even think he was on duty. I could be wrong, but I don't even think he was on duty. The last one died less than 48 hours ago. He was shot to death in the line of duty, and that was I would guess he was a white person, and that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.
Those ceremonies, much obliged, retired firefighter in Florida. Those ceremonies when a white enforcement officer is killed, mostly it's when a white officer dies. As you said, like they just had, sometimes they'll make a big to-do about it and it'll be all kinds of national news. They'll be outraged and new laws. And other times they'll, maybe say something about it locally and then we'll just move on like it's no big deal. Like, yeah, as you said, it is not the most dangerous profession, and yeah, I don't know. It would seem, if the way that they frequently treat dark people is any indication, perhaps if they had better training and better regards for safety of those that they serve and those that actually do the job, maybe we wouldn't have as many of these officer-related fatalities. But that's, my male privileged view. I did not play a report about the teacher, white female, there we go again, teacher in Virginia who got compensation for being shot, even though I think you should probably get compensation if what I remember about that case is correct, where it seemed like there was some knowledge that maybe a student had a firearm and they didn't do proper diligence to get safety protocols were not taken seriously. But yeah, I am not surprised if it is deemed that black people are so-called in charge, that they're going to be blamed, and then it's going to be super punitive. I don't know if all those nickels will be coming out of their pocket, but yeah, that does not surprise me at all. She'll probably get even more nickels by the time that it's all done. So yeah, our male caller who yielded for retired firefighter, much obliged for your patience. If you had additional thoughts, proceed.
Yes, the administrator, she is a vice principal of the school. The black female. I just wanted to go back a little bit. When you interviewed the racist who wrote the book about the white child murderer who blamed the black man for killing her kids and ended up finding out it wasn't the case. I was listening to some of the replay, and I remember she had mentioned that her brother was, awoke like she was now. But I remember, I wish I would have listened live to the program that particular day, but I was involved in some other stuff. But I wish the question you would have brought to her was the fact that that same brother you said told you racist jokes and you didn't like being around your family because they told racist jokes. So when did this brother's mysterious conversion to be anti-racist at that point? So that was something that I wish I would have been able to bring to the table at that time, because I think she would have, bit her tongue at that time, even though she bit her tongue a lot during that interview anyhow. And there's something else that people get confused with this word good. Good was originally a merchant term. So for you to apply it to someone's moral position is in error. It was originally a merchant term for goods and services. So no, there's no good white people. No, there's no good black people. Get our terms and our learning and understanding where words are originating correctly. That's all I have.
Much obliged. Blanche Boyd, the admitted racist, I believe he's referencing, who was with us a few days back, right at the tail part of October. Bitter tongue is a metaphor. I do ask that we not use metaphors. We're talking about getting our words correct. That is super helpful so we can be precise, especially if we mean where a white person lied and maybe had to acknowledge that they lied. Like, oh man, let's be precise about that, because there's so much confusion and seems like there's even an unwillingness to just state explicitly white people lie and then pointing out exactly where they are lying at. But with regards to her brother, I'm not sure if that was the same brother who was telling the racist jokes, but I mean, we would have got her two ways, because I do remember immediately going to, wait a minute, where are even the credentials that your brother is not racist? And she didn't have anything. So I mean, anyway, pardon. Either way, lies and more lies. So we got 15 lies. We got her caught in 15 lies. We could have maybe got her in 16, maybe. Lies is lies. Blanche Boyd in the archives talking about no count Susan Smith and making excuses for her, no less. Well, she didn't even do quality journalism. There's your affirmative action DEI hire right there. No count. And again, white woman. Lots and lots of those incompetent white women who get to go out and cause all kinds of havoc, practice racism. Much obliged, good sir. Let's see. Other folks who have not got to share, did you have commentary? Proceed.
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am. Lauren.
Evening, everyone. In answer to your question, I think Mayor-elect Mamdani, he is non-white. So the first segment that was played, it was about former Vice President Dick Cheney. They played a quote of him saying, "They wouldn't call me Darth Vader for nothing." I thought it was so interesting that he brought up Darth Vader, a symbolic black male that all white people seem to be, afraid of, or they think they should do something to work against him. They said he was the most influential vice president in American history, talked about what he had done, the war on terror, making the case that Saddam Hussein they had those weapons of mass destruction, the They talked about him supporting waterboarding and the enhanced interrogation techniques. No, he said it. He said he was a big supporter of waterboarding and the enhanced interrogation techniques. And I don't know, I mean, I read maybe like 5 articles in the last week about non-white males being tortured. It was very disturbing. It was one in The Guardian. It was about Israel's underground jail, where Palestinians are held without charge and never see daylight. They were talking about people being there in this underground jail for like 9 months, never seeing actual daylight. There was an article in New York Times called "You Are All Terrorists, 4 months in a Salvadoran Prison." Very disturbing details. And I kind of don't even want to say it's so terrible. Anyway, but they asked Dick Cheney if he had any regrets. He said not really. So guess he stood by his work. The white people who made that treaty with the non-white people called Aborigines, they said they'll do a study to see how the racism harmed the non-white people in that area, but they already know. That's why they're offering that sorry apology. Trump threatening to bomb Nigeria. Nigeria came up when we read Shauna Swan's book, Countdown. They mentioned Nigeria's population, and I think, like, if I remember correctly, the number she quoted came from the CDC, like the Center for Disease Control. And I just think that if Trump really cared about the so-called Christians in that part of the world, maybe he wouldn't have withdrawn the U.S. aid. Evelyn White, that was the segment about the older lady. She was 104 years old, and, they talked about taking care of her son, and his wife. But there was this one part where the wife, I think her name was Davina, she said she would be in the car, and she shared a relief technique where she would turn her radio up really loud, and then she would scream. I think that lady has to be super stressed out to be doing that, in my opinion. The caretaker said immigrants make up almost, I think it was her, maybe it was the news lady, but immigrants make up almost a third of medical long-term care workers. And then she said she wasn't so sure what we do in the future. And all of the stuff on SNAP, there was a lot about the supplementary nutritional assistance program. But the first segment, it had so many metaphors. It was a lot. I thought it was a black male. I do not know. But he said that they were still building this plane as we take off. The lady said there was 42 million people hanging in, no, maybe it was a black male who said it was 42 million people hanging in the balance. And then the lady said that they were caught in the crossfire. Then this is like a thread attached to a sweater. I think it was the Vice President, J.D. Vance, but I'm not sure. But the quote was, I think there's no lawful basis for a law that expects the USDA to find however many $1 million in the metaphorical couch cushions. At least they put metaphor in there. Also, stepping up to the plate. It was just so many. I don't even know if I wrote them all down, but I don't know. SNAP helps a lot of people. One of the food banks, they were saying that, for every meal they provide, SNAP provides 9, and there's just no way for these food banks or other private sources to be able to give people the sorts of money, compensatory assistance that they need. The air traffic controllers, the flights being canceled. The lady said, this sounds unbelievable to me that you can have people doing such an important job and not get paid. Well, it's certainly incorrect. I agree with that. And then they talked about the delays in maintenance work on the equipment, and they kind of that was toward the end of the segment, and they didn't say very much about that, and then it was over. All of this is very important. A lot of people are flying around every day. The safety of the flying public, it should be of the utmost importance, and it's obvious that it is not. The black male, Brooke Williams, who was at Aurora University, the mom, she said, as a mother, I was devastated, but she reported it. She was emailing. She said she didn't get any answers, and then they got the meeting with the vice. I think they said the VP scheduled a meeting with him. So, it's Brooke, his mom, his dad. And I just thought it was an act of black self-respect that the mom reported the incident, even though the response will probably not be what it should be. White people they're not focused on producing justice. That's not what they want to do. The Confederate flag T-shirt segment, I thought that white people are just excellent at, this is a metaphor, pushing our buttons. They know exactly what to do to make non-white people angry. They know what to do to make us smile. And we really should think about what it is that we're going to do before we knock over the sunglasses. And that's not a metaphor. That came from the black guy who knocked over the sunglasses and got himself in some trouble there. That was probably maybe 2 years ago. There were some articles in the New York Times. There were two. One, a cleaning woman was killed after arriving at the wrong home, police say. This was November the 6th. The shooting of the woman, an immigrant from Guatemala, code for non-white, took place on Wednesday in Indiana, a state with a stand your ground law. The home where the shooting took place is part of a new development in Whitestown, Indiana. The two residents inside the home said they thought their home was possibly being broken into and called 911. The lady who came to do the cleaning, she had the keys to the other house, and her husband had came with her, and he couldn't open the door. And she teased him for not being able to get the door unlocked. So she took the keys and tried to unlock them, and seconds later she was shot in the head. The police have not identified the shooter or provided any description, and prosecutors are preparing to review whether to file charges. The lady's name was Maria Florinda Rios Perez. She was 32 and the mother of 4 children, and she came to this part of the world 3 years ago from Guatemala with her husband, I guess thinking her life would be better. Well, also, James D. Watson, the co-discoverer of the structure of DNA, is dead at 97. Obviously, he did the thing with the DNA. I think he was a racist. He had a 2007 interview with the Sunday Times in London where he said that black people overall were not as intelligent as white people, and then he repeated that in a PBS documentary about himself. But then he was, he wrote a book called The Double Helix, and the Library of Congress listed it along with the Federalist Papers and the Grapes of Wrath as one of the 88 most important literary works. So, I don't know, he got 97 years on the planet, and I'm not really sure if what he said was, I think he's racist, but I don't know. All right, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you guys for allowing me to speak.
Caller, I got one question. Did the person who was doing the cleaning, did the shooter shoot through the door? That's something I saw the report, but I never got any clear information whether the person who shot the shoot through the door or not.
Okay, so I don't think the article said they shot through the door, but I got the distinct impression that that's what they did.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Much obliged, Lauren. I watched that report on Miss Perez and meant to include it and just cooned it up and neglected to get the audio and such. Thankfully, she read it. I watched the news report of that, and they showed a video of the door. She was shot through the door, just like Renisha McBride, or I think he did actually open the door. It's a bunch of them. The one where the mom went, the right woman had been messing with her children, that was through the door. It's a bunch of them now. So, I mean, you can pick. Sometimes they'll open it a crack and just, pow, blow your brains out in the yard. Sometimes they won't even open the door and, pow, that's this one. She didn't even, the door didn't even get open. They just shot her through the door.
Yeah, the young black kid got shot through the door, too.
It's a bunch of them. It's a bunch of them. It's, man, like, it is so dangerous. Like, man, I would not, if you don't know that person, I would really think hard about just going to knock on somebody's door. Like, if it's daytime, they even have a number of these cases where it's been white female children, like young white girls, like, and they're 15, 14 years old, something like that, and same type of thing, where they went to the wrong door, they weren't pulling a prank, they weren't doing no ding-dong ditch, just, you know, whoops, my fault, and pow, pow, pow. Like, man, if you are not double sure if this isn't, I would really think hard about it, because, man, I mean, end-stage white supremacy, mental health, you have lots of people with guns, confluence of variables. At the end of the day, it is very dangerous, especially if you are not white. I got the distinct impression that Miss Perez was not white. So that certainly does not help if you got an extra teaspoon of melanin and you're going to go knocking on somebody's door. It's almost like they got the gun, and I was looking forward to the moment to, blow your, and then just say I'm scared and all that, even though the door was never opened. You could just stayed inside, kept it locked, called the police, and kept your gun, at the ready in case they do something. And oh, no. I just got to blow your brains out on the porch. Anyway, yes, I did see that one from this week with Miss Perez in Indiana, because it's Jim Jones, Indiana. And I saw Dr. Watson passed as well. I forgot that was 2007 where he made those comments that it's a waste of money to invest in dark people on the continent like Nigeria because, they're kind of ignorant. Gusty forgot to even include the audio. So, and they say all is forgotten. You go write a book and all is forgiven. We won't even include that you're racist, and then we'll have lots of beautiful things to say. And he got to live almost a century. See? Eat your spinach, you're a white person. You don't sit around and go to the Dollar General to get your groceries. You eat healthy foods so you can live a long time. Practice read and talk about them old ignorant Africans. He got a good 90 years. Talk about them old dumb stupid Nigerians. See, it's a waste of time to invest in them anyway. Come on. And see, he said he doubled down on what he said. See, he didn't say I shouldn't have said that. Upon reflection, my fault, y'all. I'm a do better. I was stressed and having a tough. He stick better here. I told you them dark people are kind of ignorant now. Going by the sign, just going by the evidence. See, Eric Mitchell was the one talking about the SNAP reduction in benefits for PBS. He is indeed a black male. He's the one that used the metaphor that this plane is still being built while it's taking off. Quite a matter, especially if we're talking about, you mean people starving? I don't know what that has to do with planes, but we're not talking about Boeing. Now, if we talk about Boeing, you knocked it out of the park. But we talk about people starving. Yeah, Was that, I was being interrupted?
No, it was just, I was just thinking about the movie Con Air when they do the food drops with the food.
See, we got to television. See, we get all over the place with the metaphors, man. Anywho, if folks had commentary.
But one thing, Gus, about the shooting through the door again. I had sent you a video where a young black couple, a mother, she was home with her and her daughter and some young white kids. They had Halloween costumes. This was before Halloween had happened, and they were banging on her door, and this happened in Maryland. And she says she's a shooter. She's a gun. She believes in her Second Right Amendment. She didn't shoot these people through the door, and they were banging on her door. They didn't come through the door, but they were, and they were threatening their lives through the door. So it was about 6 or 8 white kids, but she didn't shoot them. So that was a story that I had sent you to the Until Justice file as well.
Oh, okay. I think I did see that report. I don't know with that, because if they're not in the house, my understanding, like, the laws can be different if once the person actually crosses the threshold to enter your property, as opposed to they're out in the driveway or on the porch or something like that. Like, you might have to answer to white. You have to answer to white people regardless, but you might have a little less leeway if they're outside, even if they're cutting a fool and all that. See, that sort of thing, I could see why you might want to shoot through the door. Like, what in the world? They got masks on and they're terrorizing. This is the Klan. Like, what is going on? What is going on? Like, in fact, there was a home invasion. I was looking at the LA Times, and they had one of the former LA Lakers privileged black males that his house was broken into, and he fired a warning shot. They didn't say he shot the person or anything like that. They just said he fired a warning shot to scare these burglars, he thought would be to scare them away, and then he called to report the police or what have you. So that's at least 2 instances where I can think where it sounds substantially more dangerous than Miss Perez, harmless non-white female, unarmed. I guess she might have had, whatever her supplies, but not no burglar. And it was a way less lethal response than what she got. So, yeah. Any hoodles. I did want to make sure I did make an error, concede my mistake. So I said the report on NPR about the population of Nigeria being 1 billion people by the year 2100. I said that happened before Michael Brown Jr. was killed. I was in error. It happened the week after he was killed. That's when it was reported. NPR, this was reported August 13, 2014. Michael Brown Jr. was killed the first week of August, so I was 7 days off. Whoops. Strive for accuracy. We did talk about this report back then, and like I said, it was not no whoopee. In fact, the image they got is of it. They got a black female, and she's got 2 young children. It says Soon Dupe sits with her newborn twins in a maternity hospital in Lagos, Nigeria. Nigeria is Africa's most populous country with more than 160 million people. UNICEF estimates that number will swell to nearly 1 billion by 2100. And the first sentence of the report, the future of humanity is increasingly African. And it just goes bad from there. Like, oh, it's nothing good. Jesus God. Like, oh.
You might not
wait a minute. You're still interrupting. Hang on one second. The last paragraph, it says, a lack of, even give you the name, or I guess I'll give it to you in a second. The last paragraph, the worst thing would be if this transition was just allowed to happen, because what you're going to see is an unparalleled growth of the slum population. That's the last paragraph of the report, which is what I said about the ominous tone. It is not oh joy, this is, oh God, and the oil. Yes, you were interrupting, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But you might not be incorrect, because, these people, these race soldiers get reports before, regular media does. So they may have had a preview of the report before, it went out to the rest of the media.
Oh, for sure. It's probably old and moldy by the time that we got it. But I do think it's good to keep that sort of thing in context. When hearing, plan, we got to go and bomb. I think he said, like, we got to go and bomb them back to the Stone Age, or he had some sort of metaphor. Guns ablaze. That was it. We got to go in guns ablaze. Like, wow. Whoa. What is, like, wait a minute. Religion of white supremacy. And that's what do? We got 1 billion people. We go in guns ablazing. And then we can get that oil too. Guns ablazing. That's what you can look forward to if you sign up for the military as well. We said that consistently. You should think about that if you sign up for a military career. If you're going to do 2-year tour, 4-year tour of duty, like that might be your job, to go kill dark people in Nigeria. Anyway, did we nab everybody? Anything else folks got to get in before we wrap up?
Yeah, Gus, I'd like to just say one thing. Thank you, because you helped me to listen more and not cut people off a lot less.
We are all still learning. That is a prevalent part of Negro culture, proud part of black culture, I might add, talking over and interrupting other black people. Like, man, like, yes, hopefully doing our part. Do a little listening. I use my mute button a lot so that you all get an opportunity to speak uninhibited, and then right on. Much obliged, sir. We will be here at minimum for Catherine. Whew, man, oh man. Catherine Massey Book Club, Sade Shakur's book. I know we have the AI narrator, but I have learned so much even with the white attorneys, because I just wasn't thinking about that in advance. Even William Kunstler, I just wasn't thinking like, oh dang, all these white lawyers. Is that COINTELPRO too? And then I started getting more information just as us reading this book. Sometimes it's the second time that I've read Evelyn Williams' book, but some books it is great to read them a second time. Medical Apartheid, Delectable Negro, The Man Knot, The ISIS Papers, great to read. Invisible Man, great to read them a second time, maybe even a third time. New things will leap out at you. The white attorneys was one. Like, wow. And all of these purges of Negro areas, like I really didn't pay as much attention. I hadn't read Sundown Town the first time that I read Evelyn Williams' book, but wow, all of these, them literally, we're having a trial of a militant Negro like myself, and we say there aren't enough black people on the jury and the white people that you have are racist, so we move this trial to a racially restricted county where they have deliberately purged all the black people. Wait a minute. Like, what is that metaphor? You go from the frying pan to the fryer. Like, wait a minute, to the fire. That's it. Like, wait a minute. We should have stayed where we were. Like, why did we man, come on. Like, I mean, this is not blame on Miss Williams or anything. This is just, I didn't know all this information the first time around. I didn't even have that term, sundown town or racially restricted region, and then the additional research, like, wow, that is, wow, you cannot win. Because I don't have a suggestion like this is where they should have moved the trial in New Jersey. I have no idea where that would have been, where you would not have gotten a similar result of, because it seemed, I told y'all, this is the second county where it's, dang, they deliberately drove out all the Negroes. Dang, second county in the same state. Like, come on. Anyway, we'll be back at minimum on Thursday, neutralizing workplace risk. I guess they got the holiday on Monday. That's goofy for at least people in the U.S., so-called Veterans Day. That's kind of minor because that's not a big drink holiday. The holidays that are really important, they drink a lot. So this is kind of minor. They can't really do that much drinking for war. You can do a toast for World War II. You do a toast for Dick Cheney and the Iraq veterans. I mean, that's So that's not a big one, but I do think that's a federal holiday. It's like no mail and such for Monday. So enjoy. If you have the day off, be constructive. Use your time and energy. get ready, I guess, for the big holidays where you get to drink a lot of spiked eggnog and rum and have all the pie and everything and get obese for Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the rest of it, eat lots of nonsense. Any hoodles. We will be back. Much obliged, folks, tuning in. Hopefully worthy of your Saturday evening sobriety.
Can I get one more in, Gus, before you go?
What is it?
Before we... I want to ask, because I've sent the request, a race soldier. His book is Caleb Murphy, All White People Are Racist. Could you interview that author? I would really appreciate that if you could get that author. He's a race soldier, so he's a white guy.
Request. That's a reasonable request. That's a reasonable request. We'll see if we can do that. That's reasonable. Thank you. Alrighty. Creator, we ask, remind us to stop saying not all white people are racist. Remind us, stop name-calling people classified as black. For Dr. Welsing, remind us, stop producing throwaway offspring to be raped by Mary Kay or drowned by Susan Smith or other white women. Devontae, I talked about Devontae a lot this week. We did not forget you, Devontae. Context of White Supremacy, signing out. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.